Chair.
It's my gadgets, ne?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Proceed.
audible now.
No. If other members they can hear you, I'll sort out. I'll sort my gadgets. Probably it's my gadgets.
Now increase the volume at the top of your iPad, Chair.
Yes.
Yeah. Because even the Northern Chair, I'm also having the acting CFO France is here, and I'm also having a comrade Ubaba Udlagote who's helping us in the financial turnaround, and then the internal audit team. Chairperson, we are not going to take 40 minutes of your time. Honorable members, the document for the fourth quarter has been circulated. We intend to take about 20 to 25 minutes. The document that we circulated, Chair, is in 3 parts. It's a 38-page PowerPoint presentation. The first part will have an overview. It will be done by Ntabiseng. She will hand over to Babala, who will deal with the non-financial information. In the non-financial information, Chair, as the document has been circulated, we will indicate the key highlights, spend a little bit of time on the targets that we have not achieved. What are the issues? Then from there, Chairperson will hand over to France, who's our acting CFO. The acting CFO is going to give us the financial information, which is the first part for the quarter.
Why? Yeah, you do.
Honorable members. Honorable,
sorry.
Mute your mic, please.
That's when your grandchildren pesters you for plug.
Thank you.
Okay.
Chairperson, the acting CFO will deal with the financial performance for the fourth quarter, but you took a decision as a committee that all the time you want to have a sense of the performance around the financial turnaround plan. You will handle those 2 issues. Then with your permission, Chair, I will hand over to Ntabiseng just to introduce the work. Then Babala will then deal in detail with the non-financial performance information. Then from there we'll go to the CFO. Then we'll hand over back to your honorable self, Your Excellency, Comrade Chair. Thank you. Ntabiseng.
Thank you, DM Ntabiseng.
Good evening, Chairperson. Good evening, members. Good evening, DM. I'm not going to be long in terms of giving the overview. We are presenting today the fourth quarter report, and the highlights of the report. The department has not achieved its targets by 26%. And the key contributor to that effect, it's mainly the program 3, and the reason for non-achievement will be dealt in detail in the presentation, and the acting DTT infrastructure will also allude on the major things that major projects that has contributed to that.
Sorry,
for program 1,
Chairperson, we don't see the presentation. Where is it? Can it be loaded, please?
Probably they are loading it because Ntabiseng is just giving the overview.
Okay.
And, the presentation will follow. So, but in time, Ntabiseng, let's put the presentation on the screen so that you don't have to wait for somebody to put the presentation on the screen. Can you proceed?
Chairperson, can I please request the secretariat on the other side to flag the presentation? Otherwise, she has to give us the powers to flag on our side.
You can proceed with the
Okay.
overview.
Okay. Okay, I'll then proceed while the logistics are underway. With regard to program one has actually met most of their targets. The only critical target that has not been met in program one is the issue of the reduction of the debtors day. And mostly it's because of the municipalities that owes the department. And as we know that is a challenge that is been facing us, and it is being dealt with all the stakeholders that are involved. But as a department, we are actually thinking of adopting the strategy or the approach that the ESCOM has taken in terms of attaching the assets of the municipality if we really fail to recover our debts. With regard to program two, the key that is underspent, not achieved in that area, it's mainly on the local management, and also two areas of the policy issues and the finalization of the bill. And also there is the dependent on that, because the national water resource strategy is also dependent on the completion of the bill. Therefore, while the extensive process internal consultations are underway, that is contributing in terms of the achieving. With regard to program 4, its non-achievement, it's mainly due to the finalization of the economic regulator to establish it, as well as the establishment of the CMAs. However, with regard to the CMAs, one of the cause of the delays is the decision that was taken that the number of the CMAs that needs to be established should be reduced from 9 to 6. So otherwise, currently the process is underway to establish the remaining CMAs. We will then take through to the expenditure. The expenditure, as we see it, it's sitting at 92%, and I must indicate that that is a preliminary figure, because that will represent the end of the financial year figures. But at this stage, it's sitting at 92%. At this stage, chairperson and members, I'll hand over to Babala so that he gives us the details in terms of the non-financial performance, and then the M has indicated Mr. Mwate will take us through the finance coupled with the progress on the financial recovery stage.
Thank you, COO.
The screen is blank in the meantime. Is Biogas helping, Comrade Chair?
Yes, I gave them the right to put the presentation so that they can be able to contribute them on their side.
Thanks,
They can load the presentation.
Thanks, Sissy.
Thank you, COO. We don't see the presentation yet. Tabiseng.
Chairperson, the presentation is still been trying to be loaded from this side. We've been granted the powers to load the presentation. However, if I may ask if the secretariat that side wouldn't be able to quickly load for us.
Buyogazi. Buyogazi. Sorry. Buyogazi. Buyogazi. Buyogazi.
Yes, Chairperson, I'm gonna load for them now.
All right.
Chairperson, Chair, there's someone who has some noise in the background. I don't know where is it coming from, leadership.
Can I request members to mute their mics? Buyogazi, you can mute the mic, now. Can you mute the mic of everybody? They'll unmute themselves when they have to speak. Because somebody's listening to the radio or the TV.
I'm also suggesting, Chair, because we did circulate the document, that the team in the meantime Chair, can we proceed because we circulated and indicate which slide while they are still loading, with your permission, ma'am?
Okay, is it fine with members? Because members requested that we must put it on the screen. Can we proceed, members? You can use the copies that you have. Members, honorable members.
Now, Chairperson, we can proceed, but we've been exposed to mediocre in this committee. I don't know what's the problem of just putting it on the thing, on the screen. When I get grace, you must be quiet, man. You must learn to behave. So say it's professionalism. Professionalism. Try to. We are talking about the issue of this document being loaded here.
I'm saying, do we have to wait for it, or can we proceed? If you want it on the screen,
you can proceed, because there's no way that there's nothing that we can do.
Musala, can we be in order?
No one is
we can proceed, sir.
Can we proceed?
Our network is a problem now.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Good evening, honorable members. Good evening, Deputy Minister.
Can we mute our mics and so that we can have a proper sound? Thank you.
Thank you once again. Thank you, Chairperson. I am going to start presenting. I'll start on slide 5 of the document you have in front of you. That provides a preliminary fourth quarter report, not preliminary, it's the fourth quarter performance, which is non-cumulative. It is based on the fourth quarter targets that were planned for the 2020 financial year. You will see, as the COO had mentioned, we achieved 55% of our targets, and the various programs are indicated there. I just need to clarify for the honorable members the differences in the colors. If it is red, it relates to achievement that is below 50%. If it is yellow, it relates to an achievement that ranges from 50 to 99%. And then if it is green, it is 100% achievement or more. So if we go to slide 7 of the presentation, that indicates that indicates the performance of program 1, which is administration. It just indicates that the department actually managed to achieve a 63% compliance with the required regulatory prescripts that talk to strategic management, financial management, and human resource management. And we also managed to maintain or actually exceed our vacancy rate for engineers and scientists. This I need to explain that we've got graduate trainees that we have in the department, and we have to make sure that they are placed in contracts so that they can get their qualifications required. And also we managed to implement our annual communications program. When we go to slide 8, it just talks to financial management. The CFO will go into detail into this one, but just to indicate the highlights, when we look at our targeted procurement that support small SMMEs, small, medium, micro enterprises, which we've categorized into the 2 qualifying small enterprises and micro exempted enterprises, we've managed to exceed both our targets. And the CFO will actually explain in detail the 92% expenditure for the quarter. Then slide 9 of the document talks to our water trading activities. Similarly with the main account, the CFO will go into detail into that one, but just to indicate the achievements where the SMME target of small qualifying small enterprises, we have managed to partially meet that one. And for the other target of exempted micro enterprises, we exceeded that one. And our data days, as the COO had mentioned, that it has increased, unfortunately, mainly to the persistent problem of not being able to collect our funds from our municipalities that owe us. If you go to slide 10, on international program, we do have our international program, and we've managed to meet the implementation of that target. If you go to slide 12, this talks to the program, the second program relating to water planning and information management, planning for infrastructure mainly, and other activities that talk to information management. Slide 12 of the document indicates that we've managed to update our National Water and Sanitation Master Plan and create an implementation plan thereof. Most importantly as well is that we've managed to update our climate change risk and vulnerability assessment for Mzimvubu, Tsitikama, and Vaal River systems or water management areas. Slide 13 indicates that we partially could meet that one because we are supposed to determine resource quality objectives and water resource classes. We managed to do for 2, which is Briede Horitz and Mzimvubu, Tsitikama. The main reason for not achieving the BRRR process-wise, we are required to consult the Office of the Chief State Law Advisor, and that took longer than we had anticipated. If you go to the slide 14, it talks to the various water management systems that we have to maintain and make sure that the data is collected. I'm just going to make an example on one that we managed to maintain for the water resources. The groundwater system was maintained. And then for the second one on water and sanitation information systems, the national GIS system was also managed to be maintained. And we do have an eco-status monitoring for our rivers, where we managed to monitor 51 of our rivers. Then on slide 15 of the document, It talks to the water services and local water management activities. There, I would say it's a mixed bag of activities. If you look at the water losses, we have to assess water losses in our 8 large water supply systems, of which VAL is one. We've managed to monitor that one. However, we could not create a district municipality master plans. We had planned for 17 and we couldn't do that. There was a process that we had to review our terms of reference that took longer than expected. We managed to complete the municipal self-assessments and exceeded that target for the quarter. However, for the feasibility studies of water and wastewater systems, we managed to do 4 of those because we had a delay in the implementing agents agreements. And then we also couldn't meet our implementation readiness studies because we also had delays there for our planning and implementing agents agreements. If we look at slide 16 for sanitation planning, we could create the conceptual framework for sanitation and integrated planning. However, when we look at our policies and strategy activities that relates to our national water resources strategy, the 3rd version, it could not be met. Similarly, with the bill, we had to go through extensive internal and external consultations with various stakeholders that included your SALGA and your COPTA to make sure that there is a substantial buy-in on both documents. Then we go to the water infrastructure program, which is the 3rd program. On slide 18, it talks to projects that should be ready for implementation. This relates to a number of activities that we have to make sure that they are done before we implement the project. So for the 2 projects that were planned on Olifants River Water Resources Development Phase 2D, we had planned that by the time we should have had a land acquisition and resettlement. Unfortunately, that could not be done. We still have got negotiations with the interested and affected municipalities, district and local municipal level. For Mukolo Crocodile West Augmentation Project, we had thought that we should have had a contractor pre-qualifications, and unfortunately we had problems with a service provider that underperformed and therefore delayed the project implementation. Slide 19 on strategic infrastructure projects, that talks to the projects that should have been under construction and also completed. You will see that we managed to do 1 project that should be under construction. I will summarize the reason for most of them. It is relating to delayed appointments of environmental control officers, occupational health and safety, and approved professional persons, which are engineers. And also there are contractual negotiations that actually delayed us starting with the construction as well. And also we have got disputes as well with our professional service providers that actually delayed, in particular, those that should have been completed. If you go to slide 20 of the document, it talks to operation of water resources. The targets that were not met, I will summarize the reasons as well. There we experienced a number of community unrests that actually delayed the starting of a number of our dam safety rehabilitation projects. And therefore we could only manage to do 2 as against the planned target. And unfortunately for planned maintenance, we still struggling to finalize getting the maintenance contract. So we are using internal resources, which, for lack of a better word, stretched, and we could not meet the target. And we also experienced delivery delays for some of our material that affected our conveyance systems, and therefore those targets were not met. And because of these delays, honorable members, we could not meet the job opportunities that we had planned to meet when these projects were under construction. If we go to the regional bulk infrastructure grant, you will see that some of our mega projects, for example, your OR Tambo KSD or your Greater Mtonjaneni, were under construction. However, we also managed to complete 2 of our mega projects that talks to the Jozini project that we managed to complete. However, when it comes to our large regional bulk infrastructure projects that we had planned to complete, we also there experienced a number of community unrest that affected some of our projects, and also contractor that went under business rescue is one such reason that delayed our completion of the projects. For small projects similar to the large projects that we had planned to construct and complete, most of these are lying within our implementing agents, which are at a municipal level. The reasons there range from they delayed in contractor appointments, and also in certain instances, contractors, because of non-payment, they abandoned the site, and therefore the projects could not be completed. If you go to the water services infrastructure grant, similar to the regional bulk infrastructure, these are mainly implemented at a municipal level. We had delays there in contractor appointments, and therefore it actually affected our ability to complete the projects. If you go to slide 23, that talks to the 4th program on our regulatory aspects. Slide 24 indicates that we could develop our acid mine drainage and mitigation strategy for the Crocodile West in Limpopo, and also we could actually finalize what we call a gap analysis for the 3 priority areas for the waste discharge charge system. However, as the COO has mentioned, the project for the economic regulator is on hold. I'm not going to repeat on that, what the COO has mentioned, but you will recall that the department has tabled our water pricing regulations in Parliament, and therefore we met that target. If we look at our water use authorization, the requirement is that we should complete our applications within 300 days. We managed to comply with 63% of what we received during the quarter, that we complete within the required time frame. If you then go to slide 25, it talks to water services and sanitation regulation. This talks to the non-compliant water supply systems and wastewater systems that do not meet the regulatory standard. We managed to monitor those and meet their targets as planned. And then when we look at our compliance and enforcement requirements, where we monitor users' compliance with their license conditions, and also those that are reported not to have compliant cases, we exceeded our targets there. We managed to do more than we had planned because we had additional resources, and also that assisted us in exceeding the target. And then the last activity that talks to the entities institutional oversight, we managed to create a conceptual note for the establishment of the National Water Infrastructure Agency there. However, as the COO had mentioned, that the reconfiguration in the numbers of the catchment management agencies from 9 to 6 actually meant that we had to somewhat go to the drawing board to meet the target. And the last one that talks to the regional water utilities, we managed to do a roadmap on the establishment of proto-regional water utilities. Thank you very much, DM, and I will hand over to the CFO.
Good evening, honorable members, deputy minister, colleagues. I will be brief.
Franz,
to the
remember
point.
the question of time, you go to the key issues.
Yes, DM, thank you. I will move straight to slide number 29. Slide number 29 represents the financial performance of the main account, that is a vote. As at the end of March, the department spent 92%. And for that quarter in particular, I would like to emphasize that there have been reprioritizations of the budget, mainly for drought interventions as well as for COVID. In total, the reprioritization is 711 as approved by National Treasury. That had affected also the performance of the quarter for the department. The percentages are there. The shift reflects the movements that have been approved by National Treasury. And on the fourth column, those are the environments that the Director General would approve. The funding were moved to fund the expenditure for all leaks in line with the financial recovery plan of the department. Moving from the vote, the main account, I'll move straight to slide number 30. Which is the water trading entity or the account. The water trading entity reflects 86% spending at the end of March. There are areas where we have overs and unders. For example, the financing investment in raw water infrastructure that relates mainly to TCTA. As soon as we have finalized the TCTA finance models, those minuses will be cleared. The only area of concern is the low spending on our CAPEX on the water trading entity. So in brief, Chairperson, for the main account as well as the water trading entity, we have recorded underspending for your composition of employees, goods and services, as well as transfers. Under compensation of employees mainly is due to the vacant post across all the 4 programs, as well as the organizational alignment within the organization, the OD development. The structure has since been approved at high level by the minister, and the process of reviewing the lower levels is also in progress. I will move to slide number 31, which is a summary of infrastructure spending. This slide, Chairperson, gives a picture of the projects that the department is implementing. The first part speaks to direct grants. Those are the transfers that are made to the municipalities. We have spent nearly 100% under RBIG. The only underspending that has been recorded relates to the Northern Cape, where the municipalities at that stage had not completed the implementation readiness studies, and therefore we had no active projects that could be implemented, and those funds were withheld through consultation with National Treasury. For the water services infrastructure grant, all the transfers were made, and the municipalities have subsequent months to spend the funding. The second part of the infrastructure spending reflects the money that the department spends directly or through the implementing agents. We try to unpack the spending as well as the reprioritization to reflect exactly where the shifts were made. And as I said, with the approval of National Treasury, the main adjustment that has been made relates to a drought relief, where Treasury approved that we could use the RBIG funds for drought relief interventions, the capital portion, as well as the goods and services portion. The other approval, which came late March, in March, relates to the COVID intervention, where the department had appointed Rainwater for assisting the communities during the COVID-19, the lockdown period. The Vaal River system, the allocated funds have been spent, except for the 20 million which relates to the Vaal River pollution assessment, where Treasury had approved as well when they approved the reallocation for drought, that the department should put aside 20 million to do a comprehensive study of the Vaal River system, Mpumalanga, Free State, Northern Cape included in the study. We have completed the process of procuring at the end of the financial year, and we've applied for all over to National Treasury. The second part of the infrastructure, which is also key, relates to the bucket eradication. We were left with 91 million, and at the end of the financial year, we managed to also submit to National Treasury requests for all over. Even for bucket eradication program, the department had concluded all the contractual arrangements with the service providers, and the project is being accelerated for completion. The latter part of the sheet reflects all the transfers that we are making to our various water boards, where they are implementing regional bulk infrastructure projects on behalf of the department, as well as transfers to the water trading entity for operation of water resource, as well as infrastructure rehabilitation augmentation fund. So that picture summarizes the infrastructure spending and also reflects exactly where the underspending is. And the next slide, Chairperson, which is slide number 32, out of this underspending that the department has reported, 650 million was submitted to National Treasury as those commitments were in compliance with the rollover requirements. We are awaiting National Treasury to approve the rollover through the budget processes. It relates to the Vaal River system, as I said. Also, the 300 million that was appropriated for drought relief during that year, the funds were not spent in accordance with the accounting treatment, so the expenditure will only be recognized in the 2021 financial year. The bucket eradication, I spoke to that as well. The next slide, Chairperson, is slide number 33. It also reflects the financial performance, but this is the area which links directly to the financial recovery plan that COO referred to. Here, the department is presenting the financial position of key financial indicators. Your assets, your banking account, they are reflecting favorable balances, especially the water trading entity, which is the account where Treasury gave a due date, a deadline that there should no longer be any overdraft on that account. So the department had to reprioritize the funding. Unauthorized expenditure remained the same. Other areas of improvement is in relation to accruals and payables. There is a reduction of our year-end accruals. Fruitless and wasteful expenditure, irregular expenditure, Chairperson, as well, they are certainly reflecting a stabilization in terms of ensuring that there isn't any increase. The increase that we are seeing now relates mainly to contracts which were previously entered into and they had to be honored. We no longer see that high value of irregular expenditure and fruitless expenditure. It's only on the water trading entity at the bottom of slide number 33, where we have already put in measures to address the fruitless and wasteful expenditure arising from the construction unit of the department. Also, key to slide number 33 is the water sales debt that the COO referred to earlier on, where we did not achieve the targets in terms of the collection days. There are issues that we have identified. We engaged Parliament, and there are definitely plans and interventions through the water boards and National Treasury The increase that we are having, Chairperson, is also exacerbated by the interest that we are levying on the debt book, which is sitting at the preliminary figure of 17 billion. We have presented to Parliament together with National Treasury that there are measures to try and get concession from Treasury on the interest, so that when we enter into agreements with the municipalities and other people who are owing the water trading entity, we are able to discount the element of interest, because it's the one that is, amongst others, increasing the debt book. The TCTA liability, we have reduced those liabilities. And I will move slide 34, Chairperson, which is also feedback on the financial recovery plan. We have presented this before. It speaks to the condonations. I must also indicate, Chairperson, that out of the applications that the department had made to National Treasury for condonation, we obtained approval for an amount of 347 during the financial year under review. And the balance that remains is the one that is still reflected on the slides. We received feedback as well from National Treasury on 2 cases, one of the financial advisory services, where we were requested to follow through on an official who has left the department to another department, and other cases, unfortunately, they are taking longer because of the involvement of the SIU, South African Police Service, especially where there are indicators of criminal intent in some of the irregularities. We hope that sooner we should be receiving condonations as we respond to Treasury on these cases. The remaining balance, Chairperson, of the irregular expenditure, the investigations are ongoing. Capacity has been built into the department. We have internal audit that is busy with the investigations. Additional capacity was also brought in through some of the experts that are assisting the department, and we hope to finalize the remaining balance as well. Slide number 35 is the accruals. We are constantly requested to report back on the carrying value of the accruals and payables. When we close the financial year 18-19, the accruals and payables recorded 1.6, and out of those, we have managed to pay and adjust where there were necessary adjustments, 1 billion, and 598 is remaining. The next slide, Chairperson, slide number 36, is related to the previous slide. It only shows the comparative between the preliminary figure that we have indicated of 789. And most of the balances that are still remaining relates to disputed invoices and areas where Chairperson funding, especially on the own leaks, those invoices where we have entered into agreements with Rand Water as well as EWCTA to pay them over time. As we experience budget surpluses, we managed to pay the historic debt. The last slide, which is slide number 37, is just for feedback on the 30 days compliance report, that in the periods under review, we did have areas of non-compliance with the 30 days, but that relates mainly to historic invoices that there is no funding for, or they are dispute, and as those disputes are resolved, we then manage to pay them. However, they still reflect as non-compliant invoices. For your normal invoices that are current, the department and the water trading entity is settling those. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, CEO.
Thank you, Chairperson. That is the end of our presentation. And just to indicate that on the financial improvement plan, we're really working closely with National Treasury in terms of monitoring the process. Thank you, Chairperson.
Your Excellency, Comrade Chair and honorable members, that's the end of our presentation. I hope we try to keep the time. I have the team chair to support me when you allow the engagement on our quarterly report, both in the non-financial and the financial chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ntate Masobo and your team. Honorable members, that was the report. I'm going to invite honorable members to talk to the report. I'll follow the list, honorable members, so as to make sure that everybody gets a time to speak. Honorable Seke. Honorable Seke.
Chair, hello.
Yes.
Hi, Chair. Thank you very much for the presentation by the department. And one, let me appreciate the progress made in terms of paying the accruals. Because at the beginning of the term, it was a thought with the amount of money they were owing. So I think this is a progress that we must appreciate as the committee. And then secondly, Chair, also to appreciate the graduate program on the training of scientists and engineers, Chair. I hope these are young men and women in this country.
We are losing you, Honorable Seke.
That are recruited. Chair. Hello. Can you hear me?
No, we are losing you.
Chair, hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Proceed.
Am I audible, Chair?
Yes, proceed.
Oh, I've got a problem of network, Chair. I'm appreciating my second point is on the
no, we've lost you. Let us will come back to
you.
Honorable Seke.
Training of scientists and
Honorable Seke.
engineers within that
Honorable
department,
Seke.
Chair. I'm saying, Chair. Hello, yo. I'm gone, Chair.
Honorable Seke, we can't hear you. We'll come back to you. Let's pass.
Okay, Chair.
Honorable.
Yes.
Honorable Leon, mute your mic, Honorable Seke.
I'm fine, thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, yes, I would like to thank the department for this report. I can see that there's work being done in this financial year as well, that there's a lot of changes. But I am concerned, Chairperson, on the debt of the water trading entity that's now standing on 17.6 billion. That's equivalent to the amount that our budget is for the year for the department. We really need to spend some time on the debt and how we're going to get the 17.6 billion rand back. You know, next year when we sit this time here, it'll be 20 billion. If you look at the trend, this is a runaway train, and we can't stop it alone. I think COCTA needs to get involved as well as National Treasury on this debt. Chairperson, I would like to hear what plans the department would have on this matter, and just not talk. We've been talking now for 6 years on this debt. And when we started, it was in the region of 6-7 billion, and now we stand on 17.6 billion. Chairperson, and the second question that I want to know is, I see that TCTA's liability is 19.3 billion. It's down on last year's amount. I just would like to know what is the installment or the payment on the loans, on the liability that we need to pay in this financial year, or what did we pay in the previous financial year then? Thank you, Chairperson. That will be all.
Thank you, Honorable Leon. Honorable Masala.
No, Chairperson. Now, my first question is, when the acting DG was speaking, She mentioned the issue of attachment of municipality assets if debt is not paid. So my question is, what is the national recourse of national department to attach assets of the municipality if they're not paying debts? And then where in the PFMA and MFMA or other pieces of legislation is this contained in attachment of assets? And again, the other question is, when looking at page 34 of the presentation, it speaks of several condonation. So my question is, has the 10,000 billion reflected in the 2018-19 financial year been condoned by the National Treasury or not? Because in the presentation of the DG in the previous meeting, he confirmed to us that the condonation is being approved by the National Treasury. So I'm checking if the 10 billion you speak now, is it condoned or are you still waiting for the condonation? The other question is, if one looks at and compare on the work of the department for 2018-19 and 2019-20, almost similar challenges appearing in department. However, the DG in its last argued that.
Member, can you mute your mics, please? Proceed, Honorable Masala.
However, the DG in his last presentation argued that within this financial year, the work of the department would be strengthened with the use of turnaround strategy and action plan to address financial and non-financial mismanagement issues in the department. Where is the progress report in this presentation, which talks to how the department addressed similar challenges in 2017-18, 2018-19, and 2019-20? There should have been a comprehensive section in this report on how far the department is at in addressing these critical issues that impact the entire water value chain in the country. The last question is about Program 1. The department once again highlights the challenges of vacancies in the department and the delays in conducting feasibility studies and updating of water resource reconciliation strategies. If this issue is not addressed effectively at any given time, it has major impact on the supply and demand of water in the country, as well as water security for the future. When will this be addressed? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Masala. Honorable Sihluai.
Thank you, Chairperson. Also, in appreciation of the presentation from the department, a very clear performance and a non-performance. It's always good to present your case well, the way it is, so that we have a way of also intervening in some of the issues. Just two areas, Chairperson. The issue of the project management principles is very, very critical because it addresses even the budget plans. Because if you plan a budget and you delay the project, surely there's going to be an increase of the budget for that particular program. And also the people which needs to benefit from that project are not going to benefit in terms of the timelines. And also as one listens, the department for some years is unable to make impact in some of the projects. I think we need to know, Chairperson, from the department, how is it going to correct this problem? Because as it is, there's a inefficiency in some of the programs. This does not mean is not efficient in some of the areas. I raised the issue on big capital projects that have been delayed for some years, which today have doubled the amount. And that is inefficiency. Perhaps the DM would try to assist us. The dams that have been built for years, they are not yet finished. Mzivubu and other projects, they are not yet finished. What is it that the department could do to address these problems? I think those are the few issues that I wanted to raise, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Sikhwayi. Honorable Mvana.
I think my question is similar to, hello, Chair.
Yes.
My question will be
you are losing you.
Saying, Chair, are you able to get me, Chairperson?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Yes. Chairperson, I'm checking, man. Much as we don't encourage the rollovers, but they seem to promise that they will utilize the rollovers as it is planned for. I'm just worried about the rollovers, but nevertheless, they are saying that the Treasury has agreed with them. The last one is that of the historic invoices. They keep on talking about historical invoices, and they will say to us that we have managed to pay that. I'm asking myself, Uchi, what consequence management have they taken about them? Will they continue paying those historical invoices? They tell us they've managed, which we appreciate, but they don't tell us what have they done with that, because someone has got, in fact, has got to be found somewhere in terms of not making invoices the way that they were supposed to have been made. I'm sure those are the two. Otherwise, everything, it's things that were discussed, and they are saying that they will do ABCD. We'll wait for those, and we'll check whether do they fulfill their promises. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Vanna. Honorable August.
Chairperson, thank you very much. My question is to the Deputy Minister, asking him, and I know that he's only beginning of this six Parliament, but I've just listened to Leon Basson and Honorable Basson. He's covered basically my question, where we're on a 17-point-something billion rand debt. And 5 years ago, it was only at 6 billion rand, meaning there's a jump of 10 billion rand over the 5 years. My question is, Deputy Minister, do you expect us to believe the turnaround strategy of the department? My question is, if we've increased by 10 million rand over 10 billion over 5 years, so we've heard last year, this time, turnaround strategy. I'm sure Honorable Basson in the 5th Parliament, every year he has heard turnaround strategy. So we've been turning and turning and turning, and we're just going nowhere. My question is, Chairperson, can they please give us a printout of the last 5 years, how the debt has increased, what made the debt increase, what was the interventions of from the department to those municipalities, and what turnaround strategies did they implement, where they've learned lessons where it failed, because it has failed, increasing it by 10 billion over the 5 years. So basically, that's my question, Chair, to the Deputy Minister. If we can drill down more in detail over the last 5 years, their turnaround strategy, their failures, and how we're going to deal with this debt of 17-odd billion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable August. Honorable Tseki. Tseki.
Chairperson, thank you. Chairperson, I think we welcome the progress. I don't have much. I'm moving in the line in which Member Person have moved, and mostly to appreciate the progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Tseki. Honorable Mashego. Honorable Mashego. Honorable Tafeni.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good evening, members. In Program 3, my question is based on Program 3, issue of payments on invoice to service providers is a constant challenge experienced by the department over a number of years. More especially for the budget eradication program. More information is needed from the department, especially on the challenge posed in payment of invoices. The process to address this and time frames by which to address this. Secondly, Chairperson, on Program 4, Water Sector Regulations. Underspending in this program has existed for a number of years, and in the year under review, an amount of 145.3 million was not spent or the National Water and Sanitation Infrastructure Agency has been part of the annual performance plans and strategic plans of the department for a number of years. In order for it to appear as part of the planning, how much was demarcated for the establishment of the infrastructure agency? If the infrastructure agency was part of the underfunded initiatives of the department, what has the department spent this particular allocation on? When will the establishment of the agency and the independent economic regulator be completed? I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Honorable Tseki, are you now on the right spot?
Thank you, Chair. I think so. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, Chair. Just direct to the point. One, Chair, I think it's important just to join other members. It is important to prioritize our meeting with the Interministerial Committee just to deal with the water sales debt, Chair, because you can see the number, it's increased, the budget, the amount is increasing each and every year. So I think it's important that we prioritize our meeting just to check how far are they in terms of the recommendations that we brought forward, and amongst others, the top slicing of the grants to be dispersed to department and municipalities. And secondly, Chair, on the, I think the committee is worried in terms of the budget eradication program, Chair, in the Free State and in the Northern Cape, Chair. We hear the explanations put forward differently, but I think we still have a challenge in terms of when are we going to complete this project, Chair. Can the department give details of the cost of the budget eradication program since its inception, Chair, bearing in mind of the formal settlement, what were the targets for each of going forward, Chair, to address this bucket eradication program? And my last comment, Chair, is on the civil litigation to the department. Against the department for the year under review, and what was the basis for the litigation, and what are the costs to the department? Thanks, Chair, before the network cuts me.
Thank you very much, Honorable Zeki. Honorable Mashego.
Chairperson, Honorable Mashiko struggled to the network, so he sent an apology.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Honorable Ngwezi. Honorable Ngwezi. Okay, they are not here. DM, let me join members to welcome the report and the progress that has been indicated in terms of stabilizing the finances of the department and and manage even to improve in your 30 days payment laws as passed by yourselves. We want to welcome that. But again, join those that welcoming the appointment of these engineers or scientists, the graduates. I think it's a good progress, even if it shows that it's an overachievement. But for the fact that is the graduates, and it was all of us who were saying that these graduates need to be given space for them to participate in reconstructing of their country. We want to welcome that. We hope in the near future they'll be absorbed as a real official of the department. The second issue, DM and the team, it's about the project plan for all the projects. I think it will be important that as a committee we get this project plan so that we know when you say it's delay, what you mean. Because now when you say it's delay, we don't even understand the delay because we don't even have the project plan. So I want to add to what Honorable Swai is saying, that let's get all these projects that are in your plans and each project given its project plan and would be able to follow it. So, and I want to raise the issue of the Vaal River system. You remember, GM, when we visited this Vaal River, Tshwane and Giyani, we said that in every quarter that you are coming to present your progress, you should be appraised of your progress on this particular project that the portfolio committee has visited, where they were not performing right. And I can see that that part has not been finished, and we would want the progress in terms of Tshwane, in terms of Vaal River, Giyani, and Polokwane, so that as we proceed, we know how far is those projects are being funded, and how because one of the issues that we've noted, which it's yourself were worried about, the contamination that is caused by the wastewater treatment in the whole country. So it might be important for us to get those feedback as we engage the provinces and municipality at some point. Would ask them question, why are they not dealing with those issues? So it's important that we get this feedback. The last one is, when are we getting the permanent CFO and permanent DG, DM, because we can see that you have employed scientists and others, but what was the concern of the Auditor General is the appointment of the management, because if you don't have a stable management, it's like you do not actually progress. So those are the additions on the questions, DM, and we want to welcome you and your team to respond on the questions. DM.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Chairperson, and to honorable members. Our team chair will come in and answer some of the questions, but let me dispose some of these questions that some of them are referred to me. So some of the issues, Chairperson, that are being raised, in the main, there's a
sorry, DM, I'm told Honorable Seopasingwa it's in the meeting. He wants to contribute. Hang on. Honorable Connie.
Chair, I'm already covered. Thanks. But I wanted to emphasize on the matter of the bucket eradication. I know that it's a broken record for us, especially coming from me. Madam Chairperson, I'm sure all of us here in this meeting, including officials and everyone, we've got experience of bucket system. So we really need to eradicate bucket system completely, because there's no way that we know the humiliation, you know that especially coming from where we come from as people of South Africa, there's no way that under this government we can continue to have bucket system, we can continue to have pit systems, and really let us make sure that, I know that the department has promised that they're going to deal with this, and they've explained the delay and all the problems which they're experiencing, but let us make sure that it's done once and for all, and we plan on that. We make sure that our people, we give them their dignity back. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Connie. DM, back to you.
Chairperson, thank you. The other questions the team chairperson will respond to. The acting DGG for infrastructure, Leonardo Manas, will deal with some of the infrastructure issues, including the bucket eradication. The CFO will have to come back, Chair, on some of the pinpointed questions that have been asked, and the other guys that are dealing with the issues around regulation. Chairperson, let me just indicate that certain members were feeling that we are not reporting on the turnaround plan. Remember the turnaround plan, Chair, we have committed to report on it all the time. There were certain few issues in the turnaround plan that you were worried about, even when you approved the APP that we're just concluding now. One of the issues, Chairperson, you were worried about was the stabilization of the organization at the top. And we must admit, Chairperson, that we could not conclude this important work to stabilize at the top because an important work of organizational development, the assessment of an organization, and the finalization of a structure was an important matter, Chairperson. Whether the organization, the way it was designed, was it fit for purpose? We are very pleased that the acting DG, including the top management, they've tried their level best in as much as they're acting to stabilize the organization. Later, you could see some of the positive results, but we're not out of the woods, Chair. Now that the structure has been finalized, and the team was also saying that we're also looking at the lower levels because it must be properly be designed, because the department chair, if you don't do a proper organizational design, you can get it wrong because some of the areas are hardcore and technical. For an example, in the new structure, there is even a clear provision that this legislation called the Water Services Act, with all its implications, it was not fully developed in the department. It was run in an ad hoc way. That's why there's going to be a program that will just deal with issues of municipal support or water services support. And we're very pleased that now that this important work is concluded, we should be able to proceed. The other thing that we were worried about, Chair, in the turnaround plan was the issues of the accruals and payables. And in your later slides, Chairperson, the team that I'm with today, they've demonstrated how far they've moved. If you look at your slide number 35, remember the time we came in, Chair, our accruals and payables were running at 1.6 billion, very high. And they've been reduced significantly, as we have noted. The other matter that were very clear, Chairperson, was the unimaginable, so big irregular expenditure in the organization, very big. And both the irregular expenditure you could find in the main account and in the water trading account. And there's been a lot of work just to clean up those irregular expenditure. That's why the DG, the last time he spoke to you, and even if you look at on slide 84, there is a clear issue to say now we know what are these areas of irregular expenditure, what are these steps that have been taken, and we are quite aware that, Chair, there are a number of investigations that are underway, both internally in the organization and but also by other agencies of the state, so that those that have anything to answer, they are being brought to book, including some of the disciplinary actions that we will continuously report about them. But we are very pleased, Chairperson, that condonation can only happen as long as we can demonstrate at the top that action is being taken. And this matter is a matter that is coming much clearer. The other point we're worried about, all of you, Your Excellencies, we have raised the matter of the escalating debt owed to owed by the municipalities and also owed to municipalities. Honorable, she's correct, Chairperson. We came to you and we've been indicating, like you summoned us in a joint meeting with COGTA, the Committee on COGTA. We came with SALGA, we came with COGTA, we came ourselves and the water boards. You gave us clear instructions, Chairperson. Even today, His Excellency, the Deputy President, was discussing the similar issues that are being faced by ESCOM due to the culture of non-payment, the issues of the billing systems that are not working. And Honorable Person, you are correct, this debt is actually escalating. And I know that the Deputy Minister of COGTA, Deputy Minister of Finance, and myself, as part of the other issues you remember we're dealing with around the water tariffs, we raised these issues that when you said we must go back, we are prepared to come back and give you a full report, but there are certain things that will need your support. An example, one of the things that it looks like there is a majority and agreement that there has to be a top slicing for those who are owing municipalities and ESCOM. so that either municipalities are paid directly, but even municipalities, when they owe, they can be in a position to benefit. We're also looking for the same treatment, that top slicing should be the same issue, that when it comes to water, we should use the same. It's not necessarily meaning that the department and the entities have not acted. In many instances where water boards are being owed, we've been involved to try to mediate. I know the example of Mangaung as a metro. I've been involved, the Deputy Minister of Finance, we've all been involved in trying to get them where there's a dispute. Even when they were actually taking each other to court, as part of intergovernmental relations framework around dispute resolution between state entities, going to court is a last resort. But we have also been saying to our water boards, if someone enter into an arrangement in a form of an agreement, they can't default chair on an agreement that has been given. But it's a matter that I think we should be able to come back. What the COO is saying that we should be able to look at many options to get people to pay. If ultimately one day we'll come to a decision to actually get a court order that assets must be actually attached, that should not actually be said. It should not be part of some of the option that needs to be looked at. ESCOM has been in a position to do the same with a number of municipalities, honorable members. You know that particular example. If what we're trying to do as a joint task team interministerial committee around issues of the management of debts, we can't be able to find an amicable resolution. People don't actually honor their agreements that they've entered into voluntarily. Then the parties ultimately in a constitutional democracy, they will reserve the rights as allowed in terms of the contract law, because contract law has always been respected. But I do agree, Chairperson, we need to be able to come back, because if the situation is not being arrested, it's going to cause more problems. Honorable August, we don't have a problem. We'll be able to give you a trend analysis, how this debt has been escalated over time. But at the very same time, we must also indicate that a number of other entities have been able to actually pay their water use accounts. And we're very pleased, because there is not only municipalities, you have your water use association, we have also other industries that are able to pay what they are supposed to pay. That's why the trading account continues to do what it's supposed to do. But we are all concerned about that one. We'll be happy soonest when your schedule permits, Chair. Let's come back to that. Chairperson, with respect to some of the issues Mam Slwai she has raised, she's correct. This department, Mam Slwai, is a microcosm of the state of the Republic of South Africa, whether the capacity of the state. When it comes to mega projects, there have always been problems about our ability to plan, our ability to do the financing. Then there's a problem around the execution. And this is one of the reasons why His Excellency, our President Ramaphosa, decided to be at the forefront of consolidating the infrastructure delivery by the state. That's why Dr. Ramakupa was appointed chair to be in that office in the presidency right now, including making the Department of Public Works to have a combination of infrastructure. Over the last 2 days, Chairperson, an infrastructure summit was actually being called by His Excellency the President, where our minister participated, and we're able to give our contribution to say infrastructure is going to be the backbone, is going to become the catalyst and an enabler for this economy to recover, especially water, human settlement, your transport, your energy, your ICT. We will want to be able to share with you what are these projects that we have sent that are actually shovel ready, that the funding can be made available to deal with some of those particular projects, and including those that are medium term and long term. But that matter is being taken very seriously. That's why in the department, we agree with you. We are now trying to put our ducks in a row to consolidate the capacity that is in the TCTA, the capacity that in the infrastructure branch, there's a construction unit that is there. But we are actually going to go ahead with the issues of infrastructure agents. The infrastructure agents, we must be able to say it was delayed. If you remember, some members were there in Parliament. Even the bill was finalized, but the process was not concluded because the infrastructure agency to develop major infrastructure, it will give us the ability to ensure that we are able to use the balance sheets. We can go to the markets. We can be able to raise the necessary funding because to fund infrastructure sometime from the fiscals alone is not possible. But equally, if you have an infrastructure agent, it will give you an opportunity to draw the best skills that are available, whether engineering and so forth, and you can be able to pay them. Because some of the salaries that are being paid in the public services for some of these skills we need, they are not actually competitive. If you look at how Sandral, it was conceptualized, and how Sandral has been able to use the user pay principle, it's one of the SOEs or state-owned companies that are being run well. Water is going to be at the cutting edge because there is no economy that can proceed without dealing with those particular issues. But Mamshlai, we agree fully. We have to be able to come back and say, how do we consolidate these infrastructure assets, be able to do further investment, expand, so that the economy can grow. Our project management capacity and capability are correct. It's an area for improvement, including contract management, Mamnins. Because also the way we manage certain contracts, sometimes we don't enforce them properly, or we don't enter into contracts, then it has issues of escalation, highest premium that are being made, and some of the choices that are coming up. But I think we agree with your point that you have raised. On the issue, Honorable Mhlala, that we are raising about also entities, the issue around an independent economic regulator, we discussed it the other time we're discussing issues of tariff. There is no opposition to that particular idea. The department has done a lot of work. There's been studies that have been done, comparative analysis that have been conducted. Right now, the Deputy Minister for Finance, the Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, COGTA, including SALCA, they are working as a team to make recommendations to the Minister of Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation, Minister of COGTA, Minister of Finance, to say, how do we actually proceed and start to put the building blocks where one day the issues of tariff determination can be in such a way that there is an element of separation, but then there's an element that all these other issues dealing with the formulas. It's an issue that if you look at our presentation even today, we're saying these are the issues that are important and we're looking at them. I thought I should be able to address those, Chair, because these are some of the issues that honorable members you were raising. We also wanted to thank you by Honorable Chairperson always guiding us. We are very pleased when you talk about scientists and graduates. There are a lot of them that they are graduating now, Chair. In as much as some of them, they are missing these issues of graduating in a hall, because now there's a new normal where we graduate even online. But even these international issues that are there, even today, You look at Wits University, they've announced Professor Villagas, one of the renowned physicists, as the incoming Vice Chancellor. In other words, we agree with you that we need to invest in them, but we need also to be able to absorb them. You know, Chairperson, we are not only building them for the department, we are building these scientists and engineers for the sector, because it's important that the sector, whether it's municipalities or all these other water users, they are able to have the people that have the technical know-how to deal with some of the issues. I will then hand over, Chairperson, before I hand over, the issue of the VAL, the issue of Tswane, the issue of Guyane, the issue of Palawan, and others. We will want to come back, Chairperson. I've seen on your agenda, there is an oversight report. We will want you to give us a chance through your instruction to say, when can we come in? And we will prefer that when we come in for those particular areas, the department, we don't want to come alone. We want to come with the affected municipalities and COCTA, because we're able to bring us to work as a collective there. My last point, Chairperson, Comrade Chair, the issues of pollution and the wastewater treatment works. I don't like normally to call them now wastewater treatment works. In our architecture going forward, Chair, we want to produce zero waste. We must be able to beneficiate where we use the sludge to produce energy. I was in Johannesburg Water, Chairperson. They are able to convert this thing into energy so that we can reduce the energy cost. But we can also be able to use it for pharmaceuticals and also use them for agriculture as an input in terms of fertilizers. In future, the wastewater treatment works must be regarded, Chair, as water reclamation plants. But then we'll have time when we actually come in to say, how do we ensure that these wastewater treatment works as part of our strategy, they don't continue to give us headache. I would request the CFO and Babalwa and who else that is there? It will be and Leonardo, just to come in on some of the pinpointed question the leadership has asked. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We'll start.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, DM. I'll start first with the Honorable Motala's question on the condonation that DG indicated that 9.5 or 10 billion was approved. The report provided was that the department has made an application to National Treasury for condonation. As I've indicated, for the 1920 financial year, we obtained as a department approval only for the amount of 347 million. The amounts on the slides are still with National Treasury. There is engagement between the department and Treasury, and condonation is still in progress for those specific amounts. Rollovers, yes, that is correct. We are in agreement. As soon as National Treasury is approved, those funds can only be used for the intended purpose and the conditions of the rollover. DM already covered the invoices. I will skip that one. There was a question from Honorable Basson around the loans. We are finalizing the reconciliations for the end of March 2020. We do have the preliminary figures. We have various dates for the various bonds that are held by TCTA, and as part of the response that we would be providing later on, we will be able to give you the specifics around the dates on which those bonds are redeeming. But currently, I do have the preliminary figures from the finance models. The balance that we are currently reflecting now is 17 billion that should be coming to the financials, with close to 1 billion being part of the current portion that honorable member was asking about. And as soon as we have finalized the financial models, we should be able to give a clear picture. But for each specific loan account and each bond account, there are specific redemption dates and the amounts. For example, on AMD, we know that 1.3 billion should be redeemed in the coming financial year. I think I've covered the remaining questions. Thank you, Chairperson, from Finance.
Thank you. Leonardo.
Thanks, Chair.
Leonardo.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members. DM, thank you for the opportunity to answer as well. As far as the bucket eradication program is concerned, I think I first have to go to the point in terms of where it was linked, and I think that DM touched very eloquently on this aspect in terms of project management and how we go through that schedule as well. But I think in terms of the systemic problem that might be that the department is dealing with, I just need to give an indication in terms of the procurement of the department that we have found not to be geared really to actually rapidly procure in the space of infrastructure. So we have taken steps in that direction to actually improve that, to follow the framework for infrastructure delivery and procurement management as set out by National Treasury. And we already have now a separate departmental bid adjudication committee that will be focusing on infrastructure. And they are already sitting, and it has been actually assisting the department. There are still some bottlenecks in that area that is affecting the efficacy as well as efficiency of our construction unit, and it's affecting some of the projects and programs where they might be. But we trust that with the implementation of our strategy within the space of procurement, lots of unblocking will be seen. So one of the programs and projects that are being affected through this challenge that was identified would be the bucket eradication program. But we have seen that the construction unit did actually quite well as far as the difficult engineering circumstances might be in the Northern Cape. As honourable members might know, that the Northern Cape is quite pockmarked with limestone, which is one of the hardest stone to break through, but they've done well in Post-D Gauteng, where they basically completed the eradication of buckets in dash components. In Griquastad, they've come to the point of 94% completion. There's basically 10 toilets that still need to be connected to the bulk line. But just to give you a concept in terms of the challenge that we face in this program is that those 10 toilets, we require a pipeline of 215 meters to be dug at 4 meters deep through this limestone to get those last 10 toilets connected. So that is the type of engineering challenge that might be on some of these projects that prevents us from moving much faster than what we would like to be. As far as the Campbell one, we've also now decided to follow some innovation with the Water Research Commission. So noting the fact that the conditions even there would even be more strenuous to go the conventional route. As far as the Free State, we are not as out of the blocks as fast as we would like. I'd love to, because predominantly in this area, noting the large nature of the materials required, we had to follow national bid procurement processes, but those are now being concluded, and we trust that at the next performance reporting that we will be able to report much better as far as this area is concerned. To date, the target that was asked in terms of this project or program, it's obviously 100% eradication in all formal areas as we've been counted and confirmed in terms of the 52,249 buckets that need to be eradicated. And we're currently standing at 78%, which means that 40,995 buckets were eradicated. All top structures have been built except for in Campbell. And this means that we only still have 1% of the top structures of this 52,249 to be built, but it's the bulk lines that we are working on as well as the supply. What has been spent on this project or program since its inception in 2013-14 financial year is a total of 4.2 billion. But once again, to just qualify that this was not spent only on building a toilet, but it was also including the bulk infrastructure that associated with it, whether it be the pump stations or the bulk connector lines or the water supply that has to go to assist with the flushing of the toilets in some of these areas. Honorable Chair, the DM made the suggestion that we come back to you as far as the Val and Tshwane, Giani, and the Polokwane is concerned. We will do so, but just to give you a thumbnail into the look of it is that as far as the Val is concerned, we've increased significantly the inflow into the Sebokeng wastewater treatment works from 18 megaliters per day to 120 megaliters per day by the clearing out of 92% of the bulk lines of the 25 kilometers that are there, which means that 50 tons of rubbish have been taken out of the sewer network that has actually seen that increment. Tshwane will be a construction site for the next 2 to 5 years with the budget that they've allocated in the area of wastewater treatment. And all of these will be then given to you in a more detailed fashion as explained by the DM. Honorable Chair, that would be my input for now. Thank you.
Chairperson?
Yes,
Chair, Francis CFO forgot to respond on this thing of the TCTA, the loan repayment issue. No? Those are the issues that I think we've not responded to, but the rest I think we've responded to and is guided by you.
Civil litigation.
Civil litigation.
No, thanks, Chair.
The CFO.
We'll start with the CFO.
Was talking about, but I've realized that you went out where you're seated. CFO talked about it. So, but I can just repeat for your sake so that you are sure that it's representing the department correctly. CFO.
I was taking my jacket off, Chair. Now it's too hot.
CFO.
Thank you, Chairperson DM. Yes, indeed, we did respond that the TCTA loans, the long-term portion, we have recorded the preliminary figures as 17 billion, and the short-term portion that Honorable Member Leon asked about, we have currently closed at 1 billion. And I've also indicated that there are some of the bond redemption dates that are staggered in various years. For example, within the VRS system, we have AMD, which is due in the coming financial year to the value of 1.3 billion. And as soon as the financial models are finalized with TCTA, we should be able to provide further details. Thank you, Chairperson.
Civil and attachment. Oh, sorry. Listen, dear. There was an issue of civil litigation. There was an issue of attachment of municipal asset, which you tried to touch. Probably you can repeat it. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Chairperson. I think the issue of the attachment DM responded on, because that was as a citing as an example as what ESCOM is doing in order to recover their costs from the municipalities. But as government departments, we have the IGR framework that we have to follow. And when all processes have been exhausted, then we can opt for other options. And the issue of the attachment was just one option that we mentioning. In terms of the litigations, we're sitting at the legal cost of 12.4, and we have a number of 98 cases to deal with as litigations. Thank you, Chair.
12.4 what? million, billion.
Sorry, Chairperson, 12.4 million.
Okay.
Legal costs.
Okay, with 98 cases. Okay. Honorable members, losing my time. 5 to 8. We can still take a follow-up question if they are. Any member who wants to follow up?
Yes, Chair.
Yes.
Chairperson, I think we really appreciate the radical progress that the department has done in this parliament since we came. We need to appreciate it very well. But what we want to propose to the department is the department it must try to do things well, because that's one of the areas that we're picking. It must try to do things. This is a professional department. They must try to be professional in doing things so that our people benefit. The department cannot all the years be seen as a department that is corrupt, that is not doing things well, that is inefficient, that is ineffective. So the issue that we're raising is that projects should be well planned with budget, and action plans with time frame should be followed by management so that this does not happen again. So it must not happen again. The monitoring DM by management is very critical in this department. It's very critical. I imagine the issues that we have seen in Paarl, Sebokeng, and other areas, where a presentation is made to us that the water is not purified. People are drinking bad water. It cannot be this government. It really cannot. So it's important that there's a very clear management strategy out of an action plan for this department to be professional. I just wanted to emphasize that we can't continue to talk about what has happened in the other year and when we're not here. We are here now. What is our turnaround strategy to address these particular issues that were done wrongly? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable Musala.
No, thanks, Chair. I'm just I just want to also support Honorable Sifai on what she's saying. You know, in 2018-19 financial year, the department attained 52% on their targets. And in 2019-20 financial year, the department received only 55%. So I'm a little bit worried. What is that we are celebrating so much, that we are making very good, we have achieved, and all those things? Is the department really convinced that they are doing very well? So from 52%, the difference is 3%. We are now on 55%. But I see everyone is very convinced today that the department is doing very well, unless if I don't see, maybe there's something that I can't see now, but I just want to pose this question to the department. Are they convinced that they're doing very well by getting 55%? Thank you, from 52. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Musala. Any other member? DM.
Let's thank Umam Nancy, she's correct. I agree with her and Honorable Mhlala. There is a lot of room for improvement in the department, and we'll do our part as part of the executive to ensure that we support the officials in the department. They are trying their level best, but the department has been under a difficult period. That's why one of the things we committed to do was to put a turnaround plan. And there is some progress that we are noting in the turnaround plan, because one of the issues was around the finances. There is a stabilization in the finances. But Ma'am Slwai, we are correct, to be at the cutting edge, we need to be able to use the best people for what needs to be done. The issues around planning, around the funding and development of projects is an area that we are trying to improve. That's why we're doing the mobilization of the capacity of the TCTA, the mobilization of the construction unit and others. And I forgot when you were raising a point that there was a time when we were looking at the APP the first time, where you wanted even to see where these projects are. We will also be supported by yourselves when we come to account, probably to give those detailed project plans, whether it's yellow, green, or what. Honorable Muhlala, your criticism is fair. When you look at the comparison between non-financial performance and the financial performance, we are correct, there's a disjuncture there. And when we receive the IYMs all the time, which is the in-year monitoring report that are monthly submitted, we're trying to do. One of the things that you will see going forward is how are we actually getting this work called municipal support or water services support. If you could see, even during now in COVID, you will notice as members that we're to be able to go from our primary mandate. Our primary mandate, Chair, is the issues of water resource management to ensure that there is a security. But from time to time, we have to intervene because the water services authorities, Chairperson, they've collapsed, whether the water services authorities have failed. Therefore, the issues around how do we deal with some of these issues where we're to come in and intervene. Remember, in the Val, we're intervening. In Matibeng, we're intervening. Whether you go to Standerton, we're intervening. And we're intervening with the budget that we have never been able to put it there. That's why, Honorable Muhlala, we are correct when you do a technical comparative analysis. I will agree with you. But it does not necessarily mean that even if the financial performance looks to be at the highest and the targets are not actually being achieved, like when you look at around the percentage you are referring for, as if either there's something that we have done wrong there. But it's because the law enjoins us that if these water authorities, we gave them the authority to do certain things, they can't do the job. Even your honorable good selves, we have said we need to do that. We'll be able to keep an eye on it as guided by yourself. We take the criticism and the points for correction as areas of improvement, and we will be able to make that promise that we'll try our level best. But the team is responding well in the department, Chair. There's a positive mood. We just have to build on that building block because we only rely on the staff in the department. And if the conditions are good for them, for their performance, we'll start to see these signs of improvement. And Honorable Tsek, we are correct. It can't be a once-off. We need to sustain this performance, Chairperson, but we need to enhance every year. Those will be my words, Chairperson, in welcoming your guidance. But on the other issues, we know we owe you a lot of other issues for discussion. When your program allows, we'll be able to come for a specific issue so that you can have a quality engagement with us. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you very much, TM. We want to take this opportunity to thank you and your team and minister. Actually, you have done very well because you went in the department that was collapsed, and you have put more efforts on correcting, because if you don't correct the finances of the department, it means that you don't have the department. For the fact that we have done that, we appreciate that, and I want to agree with Ma'am Nancy that you should double your effort, make sure that you stabilize your department, and finalize even this investigation, because one of the things that will not would affect the performance, it's when there is a continuous investigation that is not ending. So, but we have made commitment ourselves that we are going to engage the SIU, to engage with them on their cases and understand why they are not finalizing these cases, because the more the cases are not closed, human beings, because they are affected, it will affect their performance. We want to thank you very much. And even the one that is done by the department, we urge the department to finalize them. We know that the process of labor relations need to be followed, but they must be finalized. Thank you very much. You are released, and your team. Members of the committee will proceed with their issues.
Thank you, Excellence, Comrade Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And go without making a lot of
Thank
noise.
you.
Thank you. Can we have sharing the BRRR report?
Chair, I'm just waiting for it to be floated on the screen. Thank you. It's on the screen now.
Yes, let's proceed.
Okay, the 2018-19 Budgetary Review and Recommendation Report. As members are aware, that someone's mic is on. As members are aware that the 2018-19 annual report of the department was 10 months late. However, the portfolio committee decided that instead of looking at all of the other institutions or entities undertaking work on behalf of the department, before the department, they would await the TCTA and the department's annual report and simultaneously look at it holistically, with the intention of understanding the oversight role of the department over its entities as well, and whether there was and is a correlation between the work of the department and. So the introduction basically talks about the material misstatements in the water trading entity and the Trans-Caledon Tunnel Authority, which the department corrected, and the portfolio committee held briefings on 12, 14th and 19 May to conclude its oversight to produce the BRRR for 2018-19. The purpose of the Budgetary Review and Recommendation Report is set out in Section 3A to C that allows for Parliament through its committees to review the budget and make recommendations to the Minister of Finance and the concerned national department. For those new members, with regard to the Money Bills Act, it's also important to understand that the Money Bills Act also allows a portfolio committee at this particular junction, when analyzing and interrogating the annual report, to begin to look at the efficacies and the efficiencies of the department's finances in relation to service delivery. And if the portfolio committee feels that either a program or a sub-program is not performing extremely well or is performing extra well and should be given an increased budget, we could put that as a strong recommendation. And the Minister of Finance pays close attention and provides some feedback on the feasibility of that particular recommendation. But that has to come with a strong recommendation from the committee itself. So that's one of the processes in which the Money Bills Act allows the portfolio committee some leverage to influence the spending of the department, as well as future spending of the department's programs and sub-programs. Then 3.1 just moves into the review of the department's performance per program. And there's 4 programs: administration, water planning and information management, water infrastructure development, and water sector regulation. However, one of the critical issues that was found, but it's not the main issue, was the drought experienced in the country between 2015 and 16 to 2017 and 2018. And one of the critical issues that the department also talked about in the fourth quarter analysis now was also the drought and the COVID. But in linking the drought issues, one has to look at the shifting of funds from the RBIG to assist with the drought interventions as an emergency intervention. And I think the portfolio committee also needs to begin to unpack the extent to which the RBIG should and continue to be used for emergency functions such as the drought, and whether the COCTA and maybe decentralizing some of the drought funding to local government would also assist the department itself in moving away from utilizing its critical funding for bulk water infrastructure. I think that's an important aspect that one should consider as well. And for going down, although the main account received an unqualified audit opinion, there were certain aspects. If you could just scroll down. If you could just scroll down. Okay. Although the department had, the main account had managed to achieve 52% of its targets in relation to the 16.9% that it spent. There's certain critical issues that were highlighted at this meeting tonight that were also considered challenges in the previous year as well. So it would be important to begin to unpack the extent to which some of the critical issues that we saw in 2018-19 are forming the basis of challenges encountered for 2019-2020. And then if you move, some of the other issues with regard to infrastructure fund, the second paragraph, if you could just scroll up, the department. Okay, thank you. The water infrastructure grant and regional bulk infrastructure grant. Okay, thank you. Although these conditional grants were successfully transferred to various municipalities across the country, but what is emerging, I think also with within the department in terms of the spend of RBIG and WSIG, and the recent Auditor General's municipalities audit outcome, whereby water infrastructure within the infrastructure within municipalities with the use of water services infrastructure grant is still being stymied through limitations or the way in which the money is spent. And I think the portfolio committee should also critically analyze the extent to which we need to have the department come to give us a fuller picture, although they have come and given us a picture of, but the current report, progress report with regard to the issue of spending of RBIG and WSIG would assist us as well. In Program 1, Administration, and Program 2, they spent 100% of the final appropriation, and water infrastructure development spent 98%. I dealt with the regional bulk infrastructure grants, and coming back, the same issue that was highlighted this evening with regard to the bucket eradication program. And in relation to that, it was invoices as well. One of the other
Sharon,
issues,
yes?
yes?
Can we make Sharon?
Sorry?
Make it quicker so that
Okay, I'm going to make it. On program 4, the water sector regulation is underspent by 11.9 million, largely due to vacant posts during the greater part of the financial year within the program across all sub programs. If you could scroll down, page 5. Page 5. Okay, in relation to the water trading entity, I think members fully understood during the engagement with the Auditor General of South Africa, the major issues raised around the water trading entity specifically. And I'm not going to read the major findings, it's contained in the report itself. If you go down to the, if you go down, please, scroll down, page 6, 7, and 8. 6, 7, and 8 gives an overview of the main account and the water trading entity and the analysis by the Auditor General South Africa with regard to the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, irregular expenditure, accruals and payables, as well as overdrafts. And those were the issues that came out in the 2018-19. When we look at the entities, I think the WRC did fairly well, the catchment managements did fairly well. With the TCTA, I think we need to return to the TCTA in relation to the interpretation of the treaty, as well as the financial considerations and disjuncture between the two, the Lesotho Highlands Development Agency and the Lesotho Highlands Development Board, the South African counterpart and the Lesotho counterpart. I think that's a critical entity that we need to go back to engage on those issues. If you go to the observations, page 9, please. Observations, page 9. Okay, the observations. The observations, I'm just going to go through from my side. 5.1 looks at the implementation of the annual performance plan and financial management. And this is in relation to 52 spend against expenditure of 98.5%. The recommendation that emanated from this concern was that the department should provide the portfolio committee with a plan that is specific, measurable, time-bound, attainable, and relevant to address poor implementation of the annual performance plan by 30th of October 2020. The next issue is loan repayment by the TCTA and conditions of funding for the market. With the TCTA obtaining a qualified opinion.
Apologies, Chair.
Yes.
I'm not sure. If Sharon is reading, it's fine. But after she talked about 52 versus 98%, then her mic just died. But if she's reading, I'm okay. But if she said some motivated something, then it was going to be great if she could repeat that. Thank you, Chair.
No, it's your mic, Honorable Zeki. So these are observation and recommendation. They don't need any motivation. Sherin, can you proceed?
Loan repay, okay, 5.2, the loan repayment by TCTA and conditions of funding from the market. With the TCTA's first time qualified audit opinion, which has and will negatively affect the TCTA credit rating. However, they try to offset this by looking at the ratios in terms of risks as well as the liquidity status. The markets looked at all of that, as well as the investors and banks looked at all of that and agreed that the liquidity status of TCTA, irrespective of the qualified audit opinion, at this point was sufficient for them. So the recommendation was that it is important, therefore recommended that the department, TCTA and AXA provide progress report to the portfolio committee on a quarterly basis starting from January 2021. Vacancies and governance issues in the department, the highlighted issues around the instability in leadership due to prolonged acting positions as one of the key causes of poor financial and non-financial performance in the department. And it was explained that the Public Service Act allows for 6 months to be filled by an active position, but the Act also allowed for an extension of 9 months, I think. And the current arrangement in the Department of Water and Sanitation was fair enough. If you could move to 5.4, please. 5.4. Anyone? 5.4. Okay, I'm going back to my version. I'm going to my version 5.4, maladministration and corruption in the department. The portfolio committee applauded the minister for taking the lead in dealing with allegations of maladministration and corruption by instituting independent investigations into irregular expenditure, corruption, and maladministration. The investigations by the SIU in the department and on its entities was also welcomed by the portfolio committee. In this regard, the portfolio committee recommends that the department and SIU should brief the committee on these investigations on a quarterly basis starting from January 2021. The report to be provided, I think the Auditor General mentioned that there were some issues around compliance with the PFMA and other good governance principles. And in this regard, the Portfolio Committee requests the AXA to provide a report on these entities, which amongst others list the entities in the nature of non-compliance to the Portfolio Committee on the 31st October 2020. Implementation of the amended Public Audit Act 5.6. The Portfolio Committee noted the amendments to the Public Audit Act and welcomes the notion and the idea that the mandate has been amended so as to give more clout and more access South Africa to refer material irregularities to relevant public bodies for further investigations, take binding remedial action for failure to implement the AG's recommendations, and to issue a certificate of debt for failure to implement the remedial action if financial loss was involved. And the recommendation was that the AG should provide a progress report on how the department is addressing the findings of the AG on a quarterly basis starting from November 2020. With regard to the Water Research Commission, one of the issues was whether there is poor planning for their project. And the portfolio committee stressed the importance of the WRC looking at desalination technology and the cost implications, as well as them looking at the use of groundwater as an important source. The last one was the role of the catchment management agencies. The CMAs are not performing well as they should, partly due to the fact that they do not have full authority to make reporting use. And in this regard, the committee recommends the department should provide a report on how it is supporting the CMAs to resolve these issues by the 31st October 2020. A report to be considered. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Shireen. Members, that is the BRRR. And I recognize members.
It's Leon.
Yes, Honorable Leon.
Chairperson, yes, there's nothing wrong with this report. I would just like to add some points. May I do exactly what we did the previous time, Chair, because the signal is very bad here. Can I, in writing, make suggestions on just adding on the report, not taking away that is already in the report? Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Leon. Honorable members.
Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Chairperson. Who's that?
Honorable Mashal, I come after Honorable Zeki.
Okay, all right. Honorable Zeki.
Chairperson, thank you. Just on Honorable Leon, even if we can just paraphrase what you want to say, I think it will be important. But what I wanted to raise was that I'm fine with the report. The only thing that for me it's very administrative on the recommendations. I'm not sure whether Shireen on the same paragraph, just to make sure that the recommendations start here, the noting or observation goes to this far, and then the recommendation starts here. The second one, Chair, from the reports, I'm worried about these sporadic dates, Chairperson. I'm not sure, it's just a note. For me, it was like, if we could say, of course, sometimes it depends on the project itself. If we are going to say by end of October, on all those recommendations, on other recommendations that could not be successful, maybe the department will give us a progress report on them. But I see there's January, there's October, there's November. Administratively, that can be a mess sometimes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Zeki. Honorable Masala.
No, thanks, Chairperson. On the BRRR report, on page 2, the delay in audit of 2018-19 annual report and financial statement, the Department of Water and Sanitation, and the TCC. What is that? The TCTA. It's a very serious issue of in terms of public finance management and national treasury regulations, because it was they were violated, and I see it is not highlighted there. As part of our oversight, we need to look at other mechanisms that Parliament can use against late submission or non-tabling of annual reports. should the Auditor General be given powers to institute actions against department or entities in this regard? And then when we go to page 2, again, Chairperson, the issue of draft intervention and the amount spent for different financial is not clearly expressed, and it does not give us an indication of how much they spent for draft intervention for 2018-19 financial year. Can it please be included there? We want to know how much was spent for the draft. And then when we go to page 4, in terms of compensation of employees, the section talks about accruals and expenditure on War on Leaks program. I think we need to add them there as well. They must appear there. We must see them. The other thing is I don't see anything that talks to the issue of supply chain management after we have deliberated so much about it in this committee. I think we need to add in the resolution section that there must be a review of the SCM practices and implementation of proper controls and risk management practices, implementation of efficient revenue management and debt recovery systems for the growth of effective revenue generation and revenue performance. In addition to what I've said with regards to, the other issue is with regards to the issue of poor performance. In page 7, I see you have highlighted the issue of poor performance in page 7. But in addition to that, can we suggest that we put consequence management for poor performance and strategies to improve performance? How the department is going to address the management and leadership shortcomings? Can we have well articulated plans in report with regard to that as well? Thank you.
I don't have an answer for that.
Oh,
is there something else I can help with?
Hello?
I don't know my phone. Thank you, I'm done, leadership.
Okay, can we have any other hand?
Yeah, Chairperson.
Yes, Tafeni.
Yeah, I thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, on page in the BRRR on page 6 up to page 4 to page 6, the report reads that due to delays in verified, certified, and approved invoices for payment of work related to the indirect Schedule 6B, a regional bulk infrastructure grant and bucket eradication program, which could not be paid due to cut-off dates. This verification, certification, and approval of invoices for payments of work related not only to the bucket eradication program and other projects has been an ongoing challenge for the department for many years. Report should extend the information a little more so that it can give clarity on systems that have been undertaken to address this and recommendation to resolve these matters. I thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you very much. Honorable members, do we have any other hands?
Chair.
Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Secretary. Let's start with Honorable Secretary. Maybe let me clarify one thing on the drought. Honorable Musala talked about the drought. The drought, if you remember, it was declared by Minister of Cocta in the financial year that we are going to review it, and therefore it will appear. The amount of will appear in the year that we are going to review. It will not appear in that 18-19. It will appear in that in this in the year that we are going to. So can
Thank you, Chair. Okay, thank you, Chair. I think, Chair, you have covered me on the one issue, Comrade. I think Comrade Msala we need to probably continuously engage on the approach that she's coming with, because in the body of the report, it will be a report that reflects what we have received from the department. But at the observations and recommendations, its extractions and the debates that we had when it was presented to us, and then we present them as a recommendation for the committee to adopt, Chairperson. So in what she is raising, I don't see any point on what she has just raised that is being missed on the recommendation. So I'm just saying I still believe that the current presentation by Shireen does suffice and covers what Member Mshala was saying, and including that clarification you just made, Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Seke.
Oh, thanks, Chairperson. I think I'm covered by Honorable Tseki to say most of the issues that are raised are covered in the body, actually. So we are trying to come up with some recommendations which are specific and which do have some time frames. Chair, I want to go back to what Shireen has presented. I think it's in 5.1 with regard to the acting positions. Am I audible, Chair?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
You are.
All right. With regard to the acting position, I'm not quite sure which recommendation is that. What it's written here, it's 6 months. And then I think we've got it's recommendation 5.3, Shireen. The Public Service Act allow for 6 months to be filled by an acting position, but the Act also allowed for an extension of another 6 months. Okay. Of another 6 months, which is 1 year. Okay. All right. Yeah. It's in that context. Okay. I'm covered in that one. And then with regard to 5.4, maladministration and corruption, Chair, I'm not quite sure the time frame of January 2021. Will it suffice? Remember, this department was clouded with corruption and, and maladministration. So we have to try to rebrand. As much as we appreciate the progress, the intervention by the minister, but I think we must try to rebrand, assist in terms of rebranding, and by so doing, we must urgently or in few months to come call the SIU just to brief us in terms of where are they in terms of the investigation. So to me, I'm proposing that we call them in 2020 this year, Chair, not 2021. I think it's too far. But generally, I'm covered in terms of the recommendations that are brought forward. Thanks, Chair. T1. Everyone lost.
Grace.
Hi, Chairperson.
Yes.
So 8 kinders in 'n groep. Nie lekker heeltemal dit.
Honorable Leon, can you switch off your mic?
Sodra ek reg kry.
Honorable Leon, your mic is on.
Can we get a mover for the adoption of the report?
I move, Chair.
Honorable Seki, move for the adoption of the report as it is, and then can we get a seconder?
Second, Chair.
Seconded.
Thank you very much.
Can I come
Yes. Okay.
No, please note our objection, because I don't see anything that talks to the issues that I spoke about earlier on the observations. So
We'll note
it's the EF. Thank you.
we'll note the objection of the EFF.
Objection of the EFF.
Thank you very much. Can we then proceed to the report on the oversight? Can I ask Tomani, can you present the report of the oversight? Tomani?
Chair, I'm here.
Yes, can you present?
Okay. Evening, members.
Evening, can you continue?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for it to appear on my screen.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, now I can see it.
Okay.
Yes, okay. This is a draft report of the Portfolio Committee on Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation for the visit to Limpopo and Gauteng, and it's dated 26 June. The oversight took place between the 3rd and 7th of February 2020. And then the aim there was to oversee and assess the efficacy of water infrastructure and human settlements development in those two provinces. The background just provides the context within which the oversight took place, which refers to the constitutional mandate of the Portfolio Committee to conduct oversight in order to assess service delivery. Let's move on to section 2. Scroll up. Okay, objectives. As I mentioned earlier, it's just to assess progress with regard to human settlements, water and sanitation projects in the province. Let's move on to section 3. Section 3, yeah, it keeps on disappearing from my side here. Apologies about that, members.
Maybe use your copy so that
okay.
Yeah, they will scroll it following you.
Okay, let me just quickly get it from my files. Okay. Yeah, I've just opened it. Let's look at briefing on site visits. That is section 3. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, then the briefings from the following national departments and relevant government and non-governmental stakeholders were provided to the delegation as follows. Briefing by Mirafong City Local Municipality on challenges in relation to water and sanitation. Briefing by City of Tshwane on progress with respect to addressing challenges related to Rooival wastewater treatment plant, as well as delivery of potable water to residents in Hammanskraal. And site visits were conducted as follows: Giani Bulk Water Project in Mopani District Municipality, Sishiho and Plupane Wastewater Treatment Works, site visits to the Vaal system to examine the impact of the source of contamination in the Vaal River systems by Sebokeng Wastewater Treatment Works and Reed Spruit Wastewater Treatment Plant, as well as upgrading of the informal settlements in the city of Tshwane. Section 3, I think there's a typo there. It's supposed to be section 4. That is multi-party delegation, which outlines the members that were part of the delegation, and then also delegation from human settlements, generally from the department. Section 4 provides high-level summary findings of the Portfolio Committee on Oversight to Limpopo and Gauteng Province. Then it starts with a background on issues of the mandate of the Portfolio Committee to conduct this type of oversights. Then 4.1, effective undertaking of concurrent functions of water and sanitation between national and local spheres of government. It provides also the context within which the Parliament is conducting oversight of concurrent functions. 4.2, deteriorating and aging water and sanitation infrastructure at municipal level. The Portfolio Committee noted several challenges which include poor maintenance, lack of refurbishment of infrastructure, and amongst others. This resulted in increase of interruptions in supply, high levels of water wastage, poor management of wastewater treatment works resulting in deteriorating water, raw water quality, slow delivery of sanitation service, and unaffordable technology choices in some areas. The challenges were further compounded by the inadequate cost recovery in the water safe sector. 4.3, sustainable infrastructure development for effective service delivery. The need for sustainable infrastructure development for effective service delivery in South Africa cuts across all sectors. Since the establishment of democracy in South Africa, one of the greatest challenges has been to provide basic services and related infrastructure to majority of South Africans. Besides the obvious benefits of receiving clean, safe water and sanitation, such services delivery also aims to improve quality of life and contribute poverty alleviation of beneficiary communities. Centrality of infrastructure, both fiscal, social, in development cannot be overemphasized. Therefore, any development process must entail a commitment to investment in infrastructure. Infrastructure forms the base for which most of programs in South Africa can flourish. That is, and then 4.4, bulk water infrastructure within the domain of National Department of Water and Sanitation, and the provision of reticulation networks by local government. The Department of Water and Sanitation, together with catchment management agencies and Trans-Caledon Tunnel Authority, are responsible for water resources, bulk water service infrastructure, catchment or national water management, while local government has the conditional obligation to provide water and sanitation services within their area of jurisdiction. However, there are major challenges at the municipal level in relation to delivery of water services. These challenges include poor maintenance and refurbishment of infrastructure, resulting in increasing interruptions in supply and high levels of unaccounted for water. Poor management of wastewater treatment works, resulting in deteriorating raw water quality in receiving water resources. Slow delivery of sanitation services and unaffordable technologies in some areas. These challenges are further compounded by the inadequate cost recovery in the water safe sector. 4.5, challenges relating to funding of water and sanitation services through grants. Despite the significant funding of water services through inter-area, the equitable share and municipal infrastructure grant, there is a considerable evidence that a very low proportion of what equitable share is actually spent on water services. In addition, billing and cost recovery are generally poor, with some areas not being billed at all. As a result, daily operations, especially long-term maintenance, are significantly underfunded. The result, poor municipal water management increases the demand of water quantities, while it's decreasing raw water quality, both of which have major implications for water resource management with associated financial and regulatory implications. 4.6, pollution of water, implications on water ecosystems. A wide range of pollutants end up in lakes, rivers, streams, groundwater, eventually the oceans. Water pollution, along with climate change, drought, inefficiencies in water use, supply and demand, as well as increased population within South Africa has threatened freshwater resources, which are main sources of drinking and other critical needs. Part A, water and sanitation, human settlements in Limpopo, overview of briefings, site visits on water, sanitation and human settlements in Limpopo, population and institutional arrangements in respect of water and sanitation, human settlements in Limpopo. The population of Limpopo is comprised of 5.7 million within 5 district municipalities, 23 local municipalities. There are 10 water service authorities, 2 water boards, Lipele and Magalies Water. Overview of status of water and sanitation in Limpopo. The semi-arid conditions of Limpopo results in province receiving less rainfall compared to other parts of the country. Currently, the water demand exceeds the water supply. As per the date of oversight visit, the dam levels in Limpopo was less than 50%. 7 dams are below 30%. The water allocation per sector is as follows: agriculture 81%, domestic 8%, mining 5%, industry 2%, stream flow reduction 3%, and schedule 1 is 1%. Some of the issues raised during the oversight visit were as follows: shortage of water due to limited pressure points in areas in Limpopo, persistent community unrest due to incomplete project and delays in compensation of the loss of land and repair of structural defects in houses with building of Nandoni Dam, completion of the planned upgrading of Malekane water treatment works from 12 megaliters per day to 33 megaliters per day with requisite budget. Briefing and site visit by Mopani District Municipality in relation to challenges associated with the Giani Water project. The head of Provincial Department of Water Sanitation presented the status of Giani Water project. Members, if it's okay with you, I can just paraphrase this section, which explains in a nutshell the presentation that was provided by the province in terms of the challenges associated with the Giani Bulk Water Project, which amongst some of them relates to refurbishment of existing water and sanitation infrastructure and water supply to Kensani Hospital, and also the issue of construction of 1.5 megaliter per day wastewater treatment works in Giani, a revitalization of 154 boreholes in various areas around Giani, construction of a bulk water pipeline to convey water from Nandoni system to augment water supply inefficiencies in Giani. Then there were issues that were identified as hindering the progress in the project, insufficient water from Nandoni wastewater treatment works, as well as lack of engineering on site to complete remaining designs, no dedicated budget for operation maintenance of constructed infrastructure, lack of ownership of the infrastructure from the community, high rate of vandalism and theft, and as well as conflicting interests, and then the interventions to complete the project were presented as follows. So there is upgrading of Nandoni water treatment works from 60 megaliters to 120 to cater for the demand of Giani and Malamlele, appointment of a professional service provider, the budget and commitment from Water Service Institution Mopani District for operation and maintenance for completed infrastructure, and then also issues of social cohesion between community structures and municipal council. Observation of the portfolio committee. The first one is 5311, adequacy of the presentation. For this section, the committee in general, I think the feeling was unanimous that the presentation was inadequate because it did not cover issues like project start date and end date, as well as there were issues lacking around issues of budget and expenditure. So there was no clarity. So there is also lack of operation and maintenance budget, as well as clarity on responsible entity tasked with for operation and maintenance. So that was in the main around the inadequacy of the presentation. Then also members lamented the issue of vandalism of infrastructure, illegal connections, capacity for maintenance and operations, which was expressed as a concern as raised by the Mopani District Municipality, as well as the Giani local municipality. Then the slow pace of reticulation networks. The committee noted that water and sewage reticulation, as well as the village reticulation, was at a slow pace, proved problematic in the bulk water infrastructure undertaken by national department and implementing agencies. Then observation of councillors from Mopani District Municipality. This one relates to the issues that were raised by the councillors with regard to the presentation, wherein they indicated that Lepelle Northern Water misrepresented themselves because, in fact, the Lepelle Northern Water has only drilled 2 boreholes out of 154 that was reported, and only 1 borehole is functional. The water board's work is shoddy and there's no value for money. So a majority of the issues here were just complaints from the Mopani District Municipality with regard to the way the Lepelle is running the projects there. 532 site visit to Nsami wastewater treatment plant. The delegation assessed and evaluated the wastewater treatment plant, and then they were informed that the infrastructure is aging and there is a need to replace gears in the filter pumps and so on. In fact, mechanical issues with the Nsami wastewater treatment plant. And then there is also 5.33 site visit to Mhlaba, Velem, and Womu, 14B village. This is the village that the members visited as well. The delegation was disappointed to discover that the Giani Water bulk water project that started in 2010 to supply water in 55 villages was at a snail pace. The portfolio committee was informed the 55 villages, 22 were receiving water. However, upon site inspection, the portfolio committee was dismayed to find no running water from the taps. So this is just confirming the observations that members made while at this site. Briefing by the Capricorn District Municipality on the status of water and sanitation in Polokwane. The delegation was hosted by Polokwane Municipality, and then the department indicated the moratorium on new property developments in the city due to insufficient capacity of the existing water and sanitation infrastructure to cater for additional developments. So that is something that was delaying progress there in as far as water and sanitation service delivery is concerned in Polokwane. So the existing Polokwane and Sishiro wastewater treatment works were operating above treatment capacities. The 2 wastewater treatments have combined treatment capacity of 33.8 megaliters, while total incoming inflows may reach 42.8 in dry conditions. So this is the one of the plant. I think the 2 plants that we visited, we have seen that they were overflowing. So they were overflowing, which means they were receiving too much water, wastewater from the communities. Observation of portfolio committee 5.4.1. In Polokwane, the portfolio committee was concerned about the untreated water that was dumped in streams and rivers, the lack of integrated planning by both national, provincial, local level in ensuring that plans complement each other was a concern. The portfolio committee was of the view that the provincial, local government should adapt the National Water Master Plan and make it practical to their needs. Presentation by Provincial Department of Human Settlements on informal settlements in Polokwane. The presenter informed the delegation that Provincial Department of Human Settlement had completed 30,000 721 houses over the previous medium term. The increased trend was as a result of huge housing demand to family formation and increased migration to areas with economic opportunities. Monitoring mechanisms were put in place to ensure that early identification of risk, non-delivery, poor performance by service providers, as well as detect other hindrances to service delivery. It was reported that the province consists of approximately 80 informal settlements, accommodating a total of 203,800,000 in 49,259 structures. Capricorn District Municipality has a total of 5 informal settlements that were assessed and located in Palawan local municipality with a total of 5,500. Basically, here it's just a presentation from the department, Provincial Department of Human Settlements, as well as Capricorn Municipality. Let's move on to Part B in the interest of time. Meeting at the Sidibeng District Municipality. This was in Gauteng. The delegation was welcomed by Executive Mayor of Sidibeng District Municipality. Provincial Department presented the influent intervention for Val River System pollution and Sidibeng Sanitation Scheme. So this one talks about the Val River System remediation project that was presented in detail by the province as well as the Sidibeng and Emufuleni municipality. And I think we did conduct a site visit to this one. So 5.6 meeting at Mirafong local municipality in the West Rand. The executive director presented the status of reservoirs in municipality. It was reported that the 5 reservoirs in total, 3 of these had been decommissioned due to domestic conditions. He informed the delegation that provision of water was at 97% of the household, and then also presented the Western Area Regional Sanitation Scheme. The project was part of Western Area local municipality, which had merged with Randfontein local municipality. The project is aimed to provide additional wastewater treatment capacity within the West Rand due to an anticipated number of developments in the area. It was reported that there were 3 projects that were under construction funded by Water Service Infrastructure Grant. That was Randfontein Wastewater Treatment Plant Phase 2 and provision of water relocation, water meters and standpipes in Bakersdale informal settlements, as well as Mogale City Rural Water and Sanitation Project. 5.7 presentation of the Temba on the Temba Water Treatment Plant, Royval Wastewater Treatment Plant, and update on recommendations made by the Portfolio Committee during the site visit to Royval Wastewater Treatment Plant, 30th August, as well as meeting held on 10th September 2019. So this section now just provide recording or documentation of the presentation that were made with regard to these 2 plants, the wastewater treatment plant as well as the Temba water treatment plant. I'm not going to go to detail there. I will just zoom into the recommendations that were made during the oversight. The delegation was presented with the updated report based on recommendations made during the oversight that was conducted in August, and the follow-up meeting as follows. So the department availed the services of government entities, Mahalis Water, as well as ERVAT, the Ekurhuleni Water Care Company, to assist the City of Tshwane in this initiative. Conducted, so the entities conducted detailed assessments and a plan of challenges and solutions, including funding at the Royval. So all those were the issues that they presented, which are outlined over there. Okay, then 5.8 briefing by the City of Tshwane on Kanana informal settlements upgrade. The official presented the status of informal settlements, stating that a settlement was part of the developing the broader Maskral flagship project The upgrading was done through the Urban Settlements Development Grant, the in situ upgrading. The formalization of informal settlements was coordinated in the form of Litsema, where funds were sourced from all the grants so that installation of basic services for water and sanitation. The project was at 45% completion stage and the contractor was on site. Having challenges of funding, the department assisted with the funding to buy materials. The project was challenged by having more people than the stands. As a result, there was land that was made available to allocate to those that were removed from the stands. The ward councillor informed the delegation that communities were pleased by the status of the project. He reported that the project would be extended and will accommodate stands for shopping centers, schools, recreation centers. The project would also accommodate other types of houses, such as low-cost housing. The people who do not qualify for the state-subsidized houses were given vacant serviced stands to build for themselves. The mayor informed the delegation that the city of Tshwane was the only municipality that was providing double portions of all the free basic service, and all people in the low-cost houses were exempted in paying rates and taxes. A site visit to Temba wastewater treatment plant. This section just provides the site visit to Temba wastewater treatment plant, as well as site visit to Royval wastewater treatment plant. Now we'll move on to Part C, observation on water and sanitation, human settlements, issues in Limpopo and Gauteng. This is now the observation overall of the entire oversight. The delegation observed the following during the meeting held and the site visits conducted. There was a need to fast-track the amendments of legislation, that is the National Water Act and Water Services Act, to ensure synergy and efficiency between the two pieces of legislation, which would provide more clarity on roles and responsibilities, but also provide mechanisms for the minister to retract a water services authority mandate from a non-performing municipality. The deterioration and aging infrastructure, lack of maintenance of underground pipes had resulted in water losses. Most of municipalities that were mandated as water service authorities were the highest polluters, and thus a need exists to reconsider their mandates as they were failing to run wastewater treatment plants. Some municipalities were dumping untreated water into river streams. There was lack of integrated planning by provincial and local government, ensuring that plans complement each other. Tankering was used as the source of water supply in areas where there are water challenges. This was consuming huge sum of money and could lead to corrupt activities. There was lack of progress with regards to the Giani bulk water project, even though large sums of money was invested. The communities from 55 villages that were meant to benefit from the scheme were facing dry taps, while some were waiting for reticulation by the municipality. The delays in implementing consequence management for people who were found guilty by the forensic investigation in Giani bulk water project was not acceptable. Intervention teams such as Ekurhuleni Water Care Company should ensure that skills are transferred to the municipality where they intervene so that capacity can be strengthened. Some municipalities lack people with necessary skills in running the wastewater treatment plant, and this was a grave concern. There was lack of progress in dealing with water quality in Maskral. The memorandum of understanding between the City of Tshwane and the Ekurhuleni Water Care Company and Makali's Water was signed on the day of the visit. Even though the delay was unacceptable, there was hope that the challenges facing Royval wastewater treatment plant would be resolved. The extent to which the Mopani District Municipality and Polokwane Local Municipality can and is able to determine and plan appropriately by taking in the following variables, that is population versus yield versus demand with necessary infrastructure. Maintenance of present infrastructure should be definitive time frames for each planning phase, which is absent in the documents presented. 6.12, although money has been dispersed through the Water Services Infrastructure Grant to provide the necessary services, very little benefit is seen by communities. The application of the the application of their work appears to be a top-down approach by national, provincial, and local level government, with very little or no attention paid to participation of community members. Consultation or lack thereof of projects in affected communities create further tensions. Criminalization of offenders of water infrastructure required further scrutiny by all three levels of government. Application of bylaws need to be tightened in respect of pollution by industry and mines. The use of tankering to augment water supply to communities and to the coast to municipalities and whether infrastructure deliberately being vandalized to secure tankering services must be investigated. Part D, recommendation by the Portfolio Committee on Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation. Based on the observations made, Portfolio Committee requests the Minister of Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation to ensure that a progress report on the recommendations is received by the committee. The Minister should ensure that the National Department of Water and Sanitation fast-track the amendment of Water Services Act and National Water Act to ensure synergy and efficiency between the legal frameworks. Set aside funding to revitalize deteriorating and aging infrastructure, and including funding for maintenance of current infrastructure to curb water losses. Industry, mining companies, and other pollutants must be compelled to comply with environmental laws and regulations and environmental levy mooted by the National Treasury. Departments of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. Water and sanitation be undertaken to work out a strategy or plans to address fast track of reticulation infrastructure networks. The department put in place measures, that is, protocols, regulations to deal with proactively with the challenge of water resource management in relation to issues of river health, dam management, and impact of pollution on the quality of water. Yeah, that is the end of the oversight report to Limpopo and Gauteng. Thank you, Chairperson.
Tumani, it was a long report. Honorable members.
Chairperson.
Yes, ma'am.
In this report.
Can we, Honorable Tafeni?
Oh, what Chairperson? In this report, you must note down that the EFF is abstained.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Honorable members.
Chairperson.
Yes.
Chair.
Let's give it to Honorable Tseki first. Tseki, and Tseki will follow.
Okay.
Chair.
Tafeni.
Thank you very much.
Switch your mics, yes. Yes.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Chair, I think the report is fine. We have all listened to how that Tommy is presenting this report. In some areas, he keeps intervening in terms of the wording and the actual activity that happened. And I think that's very good for improving this report. We want to propose, Chair. I think what Comrade Tommy has presented on this report, it needs some further improvements. Like if you look at the background of the report, normally the background of the report is the standards mandate of the committee. We know that committees are about lawmaking, public participation, oversight, IGR and all those. But in the introduction, you will find that on item 3 and 2, it's a repetitive kind of what actually has happened. So the introduction should be specific on the objectives of why the report happened. And then the framework of the Constitution and all that. But what is important, Chair, in the body of the report, I think the observations are made. One is happy with those observations that are made. But towards the end of the report, one wants to propose it in this way, Chair, that probably this section and the section of the recommendations, those numbers must tie, Chair. The numbers of the observations and that of the recommendations must tie. What you observe this side, and they must also observe, recommend on the other side. But what is important, Chair, we should be able to tabulate these recommendations and observation in the manner of specific. It is indeed, we visited these sites. Our intention was for both water and sanitation and human settlement. When you look at the recommendations and observations, they look at the national policy. I agree, it's important to look at the national policy because that's one that informs us to do an oversight on our mandate. But if we are talking about Kensani, let's plant Kensani within that national policy. If we are talking about moratorium, there must be a resolve that says the department must give us a report on when are they seeing and uplifting the moratorium in Polokwane. Specifically talking to Polokwane. It must also say in those wastewater treatment that we have visited in Gauteng and Polokwane, the issue of skills was very clear. If you look at the recommendation number 6.9, the observation 6.9, it talks about skills, but it talks general. Let's include that in Seshego wastewater treatment, these are the skills that we have identified. In Polokwane, these are the skills that we have identified. So that when we recommend, we are able to say the department would want you to present to us what interventions have you made. I'm making an example of these, Chair, because I remember very well on the water treatment we visited there next to Seshego. It was very clear on what we need to do.
Honorable Zeki, already
Yes,
we're outside our time. Can you summarize, please?
Okay, let me just summarize, Chair. I think, let me say, Chair, if it's welcomed. On specific, I want to agree with the principle of the report, but I just want us to interject on those specific. The last one that I want to reflect is the issue of the relationship of traditional leaders in Limpopo and in Gauteng. It's an issue of saying that since the soldiers have left, what is the capacity of the Sebokeng or the Val River water system? But I'll forward them, Chair, to me and Sharina. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Zeki.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I would want to move for the adoption of this report with the few amendments that were done by Zeki. And yeah, as long as they don't change the content of this report, I would move for the adoption of this report, Chair. Thanks.
So, Grace, you just move them. You don't even know them. Just
no, I
move.
was part of. Muthala, I was part of this oversight. I was part of this oversight, Muthala. We were not there.
Yes,
Honorable
thanks.
Mbana.
Chair, I second Comrade Tseke. We can't be taking this report back and forth. It's an old and stale report. The only amendments that I have had Honorable Tseki has added. It's about three additions, which I want to second it with the amendments. Otherwise, the report, I'm pleased, especially with the observation and also the recommendation. And I never thought that it will be very detailed as it was discussed during our time. Thanks.
Thank you very much, honorable members. The report therefore adopted with the amendment made by Comrade Zeki. But I want us to add that that the portfolio committee had some instances where were frustrated by the communities because of the poor planning or because of the commitments that were made which were not fulfilled. We were hostage in Val. In Temba, the mayor was beaten there because there was allegations that councillors sell the stands for their friends and removing rightful owners. I think those things must get their way in the report so that because that hostage, if we didn't have people with negotiation skills, we didn't have proceeded to other projects. We're going to stay there for quite some time. I think it will even help us in the near future as we're proceeding to other areas. Parliament should actually be able to provide security for members. So if I think that's the end of the report and it's been adopted with those amendments.
Chairperson?
Yes,
no, I just want to say that I would like to second Honorable Tafeni on abstaining for the report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian.
That's great. That's good, Mutlala.
Honorable members, honorable members, we're not done. We have minutes, and majority of the minutes are the reports for the BRRR and the budget, the strategic plans and the budget. So those are the minutes that members, you have received them. Can we adopt them quickly so that because most of the recommendations, what is in the report, it's part of what is in the minutes. Can we go to the minutes, Viokazi?
Yes, Chairperson.
Put the minutes and the dates. How many packages we have? 5.
Yes, Chairperson.
Okay. Can we have which one? Which date is that? Let me open my
12 and 14 May, Chairperson.
Yes. Can we go to the? Can we talk to the minutes of the 12th of May, honorable members?
Yes, Chair. Can I come in?
Yes.
Yeah, I think on the resolution, Chair, the resolution needs to talk about the strengthening of governance and monitoring mechanism, internal controls and delegations regarding financial management. Also implementation of expenditure management system in all areas of spending. And we also need to include, in terms of turnaround strategy, to address accruals and payables, irregular expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, the quarterly reports, as well as remedial actions to address unresolved issues. We need to deal with poor financial planning, slow roll out project, and to stop the corruption. This is what I want to add, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Motlhala. I was said the resolution mostly in the report, because what is important is what you take it to Parliament, and for Parliament to, when it's decision of Parliament, the minister has a responsibility to attend. But it's fine. Honorable members, can we let's talk to the 12th of May.
Agreed, Chair. Actually, what Member Mshala is saying, it's exactly what the AG's report reflects. But it's fine, Chair.
Yes, and the AG in the report actually has mandated the portfolio committee, because we are repeating things that the Auditor General said we must do, and they are there in the report.
But Chairperson, can I come in as well?
Yes.
Yeah, no. The other thing is, please, going forward, can we get these minutes, like the minutes of today? Can we get it in the following meeting? Because sometimes we get to forget what we spoke about in the previous meetings. Like this one, it's 5 pairs of 5 minutes for different meetings. So it gets difficult for us to.
No, Honorable Msale, you didn't hear what I'm saying. These are the
Yeah.
minutes, the report for the BRRR, because we're meeting with various stakeholders, but for one item, it was continuation of the meetings that we held as we engaged the department, entities, and boards on the whole report, their annual report. That's why there's those sets of minutes, because they are not being we have not held them in the same day. The other minutes is for the strategic plans, which all the resolutions they've been kept in those reports. So it's the report of the minutes of the report for the strategic plans and APPs that we have done, which would not. It's something that you would not have. You have to deal with them simultaneously, because it's one agenda, but coming in different ways because you are dealing with entities. That's what I'm saying, Huri. That's why the minutes has to come together, because we're dealing with one agenda, which is annual report, and the other one was on the strategic plans and APP. So we've dealt with 2 agendas: annual report and budget and strategic APP and strategic plan of the department. Those are the minutes, because we have not held one day with all those with the department and entities. We had to use different days to engage the department and the entities. So we agree that the minutes should not be piled, but with this one is for the reports. That's why we had to collect them, all of them, at the same time.
But Chairperson, sorry to interrupt again. If that was the case, minutes because we can't separate them according to you. That's why the pieces is because it's different meeting. If that was not the case, since we are saying we were dealing with annual report, so it's going to be 1 minutes. But why are they coming in different
So we had a lot of discussion, because
as much as it's annual report, but it's different meeting. Each and every meeting in a minutes.
One agenda. But it's one agenda. It's the same agenda that we dealt with, different days. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes. We have dealt with this issue today. The next time when we have a meeting, bring the minutes of the previous meeting so that we can be able to remember exactly what we spoken about in the previous meeting. We move to another, like that. Like today, the minutes.
We will do that with other. We will do that with other things. We will do that with
Chairperson.
other. We'll do that with other meetings, but with the annual report, we'll continue to do the same because it's not possible to do that.
Chairperson.
Okay, Honorable Tseki.
I think what Member Mhlala is saying, it can be an honorable thing, but I think she misses what you are explaining, that the agenda of these meetings was an annual report of entities of the department and everything. But because of COVID, we could not conclude these in one day. And you are explaining to say, because it was an item, one item, therefore we move them in the minutes if it was one day. We could have said a continuation of meeting one, even up to the 5th meeting. We could have said the start, and that's what you're explaining. So each meeting that has got a specific agenda, of course, Member Mhlala, you are right, it will be dealt with in that light. And I must say, Chair, maybe we should just not say every time we'll have a minute, we'll have minutes. Indeed, I agree with you that let's all have minutes every meeting that we are sitting. But because of this state in which we are, it may be difficult, and then the Mhlala will be clamping on our heads to say the committee has agreed that every after meeting there will be minutes. We want them to be like that, but material on the ground can dictate otherwise. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. And there is a process of that we follow in Parliament before the minutes can come to the committee. The secretary compiled the minutes and then must have quality assurance by the content advisor, and then it must go to the management meeting before they come to the committee. Unless it's not going to be possible for every meeting to, because we are meeting every week, and there is the process that the minute has to follow. So can we get the adoption of the 12th May and the 12th of May? Can we move there for the adoption?
Agreed, Chair. Move. I think we thought we have moved already.
Tseki moved.
Konje, is it the same item where EFF said they abstained, Chair? Is it the same item?
None.
Or
On
is the
the
previous
minutes.
one?
No, it's the previous one.
Okay, thank you.
Can we get the seconder?
I'll second, Chairperson.
Oh, Leon.
Thank you very much, Leon. The 15th of May, this one was on the entities. Can we get the mover for the adoption of the minutes? The 15th of May. Scroll them as we talk, Yokazi. Can we get the mover for the adoption?
I move, Chairperson.
Honorable Leon moves. Seconder.
Can I second? I second, Chair. It's okay.
Thank you. Take a second. Can we proceed to the other minutes? Now the solution are in the report. So it's just a mistake, that one. The resolution of those minutes are in the report already. Let's proceed to the other, the 22 of May.
Can I come in on this one?
Yes.
Because really, I don't understand how this thing operates. You put the resolution there is blank, then you are saying the resolution is in the report. So I suggest you remove that resolutions there where it says members must put the resolutions.
Yes.
But I'm saying that on that one, I suggest that we finalize the engagement of interministerial task team on addressing debt collections amongst the 3 spheres of government. So the portfolio committee should be provided with an updated progress report on timeframes and action plans by which the department and water boards, together with National Treasury, find concrete solution to this ongoing challenge, which impacts on effective water resources management and water service provision in the country. So I was suggesting that we put that as a resolution of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay. There will not be any resolution on this minute, Honorable Mukal. We can just add it as part of what the department should do. And the resolution, if you remember, the meeting that we had with COCTA, we took the same resolution that they must come back and brief us on the supplies and other things. So I think we are going to have that meeting. Is just we have to get COCTA for them to avail themselves and we continue the meeting. Can we get the mover for that?
Because machine not like stop.
Ma'am. Honorable Chair, I move for the adoption with the inclusion of what is said.
Okay.
I support Chair, and then I agree with. I think Member Mshala is still moving within what you said, Chair. Those principles, Member Mshala, are fine. We are indeed going to continuously receive a report from the department.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The 26th of May, can we get the mover for the adoption of the minutes? Catchment Agency, Komati and Brede Hode. Can we move for the adoption?
I move for the adoption of the minutes.
Okay, take him move for the adoption. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. This one is the minutes of the 28th of May, seen that by the entities. You would remember that the other minutes are still delayed because it was a joint meeting with select committee. Will adopt them in the joint meeting. This one is only focusing on the entities. Can we get the mover for the adoption of the minutes?
Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see anything that talks to the TCT providing an addendum to the presentation.
It's there on the report.
Is it on the
report that we have adopted, Honorable Mkha?
Which report? Because on this day, we talked about the addendum that must be provided, and the TCTA promised to us that they will bring the report. So it was discussed in this meeting. So it must
but
on this meeting.
They've confirmed that they will bring the report. I think
it's fine.
Unfortunately, no.
As part of the discussion of that day, I don't know whether we know, maybe we don't understand. Maybe we understand the minutes. The minutes
yes, that has been included in 4.3.
Where is it?
What is said by Honorable Moshali is included in 4.2, 4.3.
Can we get the mover for the adoption of the minutes, Honorable members?
I move.
Chairperson, before you adopt, if I may.
Yes,
the secretary is going too fast with regards to the attendance, and I have not seen my name on this attendance register, and I think I might have missed it on the previous one as well. What I would like to ask, not to hold up the meeting, if she can just check the records with the attendance, please, so that it can be recorded when I was in attendance in the meetings. Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay, Thank you.
there.
Honorable, Honorable.
Keep quiet.
Honorable members.
Don't start, Mushala, don't start. You must mute her phone.
Honorable members.
Mute her mic.
Yes, Mama Slalo.
Yes,
Mama
Honorable Mvana has moved. Can we get the second, Honorable Sifai?
Mama Slalo.
I second Chairperson.
Honorable Sifai, second. Who's calling me?
It's Tafe.
Okay, can I hear you, Honorable Tafen? The minutes.
I don't see my name in the attendance register of the 26th of May.
We're not there, Galo.
Okay.
I'm not there.
Honorable members will confirm. I think they are noting it.
That is
will
administrative, Member Tafen. That will be confirmed, please.
So can we go to another minute? Yo, they've been complaining.
Don't hold
taking
us
a lot of time.
ransom on just the name.
Guys, is it the last? The last? Is it the last one? This one? The 7th of June.
Yes, Chairperson, is the last one.
Can we get the mover for the adoption of the minutes?
Vana moves, Chairperson.
Vana
moves. Supported.
Support. Thank you very much. The meeting. Thank you very much, honorable members, for the interactions of. We had a long day, and thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
But the two were
agreed job.
You were not there.
Sean August, he was not there.